Today. Bitcoin today. This is Bitcoin. Bitcoin now. Turn up those. Get that education going. This is Bitcoin now. It's over now, but Bitcoin is on fire. This thing is, you can't kill it. You have to find something that you can trust in that trustless world, which is Bitcoin. You know, it is a asset class that protects you. Right. The U.S. federal government's on an unsustainable fiscal path. The U.S. federal government's on an unsustainable fiscal path. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin today. Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, not Bitcoin today, not Bitcoin, not Bitcoin today. Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay now? Bitcoin today. Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Bitcoin today. Bitcoin. No. Not Bitcoin today. Not close. Not. Oh, Bitcoin, by the way. Just Bitcoin today. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. You do not sell your Bitcoin. To economic L is the orange pill. There'll be more prices determine the value of money. Enjoy trading thoughts. Prices, the price value of money. Right. This whole space has sounded like prices determine the value of money. Prices don't determine the value. Get rugged. It's not price. Get rugged. It's not price. Okay, the supply of money determines the value. Prices don't determine the value. Just remove him from the prices determine the value. No, listen, Mike, shut up. Jack off. The amount of money printed determines the value, not prices. That determines the value of money. You keep going backwards every time you realize you're wrong. Right? It's the supply of money. Prices determine the value of money. Mike, why don't you listen? I'm just listening. I'm really trying to learn. Yeah, real quick, Mike. If you look at the value of money in terms of another money, like right in terms of gold, prices determine the value of money. Okay, can you get rid of this guy? He's like retarded.
I'm begging you to stop.
Can you get rid of this guy?
Yeah, this has been a great
He's like
exercise in verbal
retarded. What's up, Tomer? Terrence? Good morning.
I think you went to Tomer first.
Tomer first.
Oh, he's not.
Homer
There
today.
he is. There he is.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just still giving my head a shake after all that. What determines the value of money question?
The
Good
bad thing
morning.
is Lauren is programming a lot of people who don't understand, and that
Yeah.
they think prices really do determine the value of money.
I want to work for the Federal Reserve, everybody. Buying
Is
So
that?
back
when prices go
20K.
up, the value
Oh,
of
yeah, there's
money goes
Doug.
down. I mean, it makes sense. It's completely out of context.
No, it's retarded. Hey, has that guy ever came back on the stage? That Mike guy? I haven't.
I
Has
don't
he
know
ever?
if he's even real. I've never seen him
He's
except
real.
that one
He was in the
space.
space.
Yeah, but just one space. He came and
Which
went.
guy?
Yeah, he's been in a couple.
That guy that said prices determine the value of money. He's one of Dark's friends. I don't know who he is.
This guy.
I don't think it's Dark's friend, but
Determine the value of money.
yeah, that
Oh.
guy.
What's
You
up,
might have
Doug?
shamed him into hiding.
Well, he'll live forever in Lauren's sound mixing board, at least, and I don't know. Maybe he'll be
Forever.
inscribed on the Bitcoin blockchain
It
forever,
is. It
Oh,
is a
dear.
great dumb
immortalized.
quote.
He's part of Bitcoin lore now.
Will
Bitcoin
his
Lauren.
inscription fit though on my node if I'm running 110, Tomer?
I know
Hopefully
you
not.
better, guys. You better, if you're going to inscribe it, you better do it before Lauren or before Terrence activates BIP 110, because then no more inscriptions
That's what I'm
for
saying.
anybody.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, shall we say hello to everybody, Lauren? Do you want to do your
Yeah,
job?
man. I was gonna say hi to Dark.
Okay. Oh, there's Dark.
Dark side.
Top of the day to you,
What's up,
gentlemen.
buddy?
Top of the day. That was a lot, man. You had me laughing out loud. Good stuff.
We didn't have Tomer laughing out loud. We had him shaking his head out, putting earplugs in, contemplating
I
deep into
listen. I've
space.
had great laughs at when Dark Side and Puncher have had arguments with other people about, in particular, about them being CIA assets. I was playing that stuff over and over and over for myself and family members. That was good comedy.
Hey, look, MI6 just showed up.
Oh,
Hello,
British.
Governor. Have a
What's
spot
up,
of tea.
Governor?
Evening, guys. Evening. Hope everyone is well.
Hey, British, you feeling better?
Way better. Way better.
They say guys that have higher testosterone get sick more often. Is that true, British?
I don't know. You got to ask Darkseid that. He's running on 2,000.
All right, let's say hi to Vinny, and then let's say hi to Jacob.
Good morning, guys. Excited to be here with you as always. Yeah, just hanging out, really.
You running your node, Vinny? I just want to make sure everyone's running their node.
Oh, I'm hashtag not gonna node. Maybe in a couple years I'll finally get to that.
Really?
Vinny's playing with his node.
Well, if you
It
need
took me
help, reach out. It could not be easier.
it took me like 2 years to even self custody since I bought my first set. So I'm one of those people that kind of procrastinates, but I'll probably buy one of those like BitX things at some point. Like, cause I heard those are
That's a
pretty neat.
minor.
Yeah,
That's a
that's good
Oh,
for
that's
minor.
different. That's
mining.
different. Yeah, you're right. You're right. My bad.
That's okay. Well, this is why we're here. This is why we're all here.
We're failing if that's the case.
Yeah. How about you, Jacob? Are you running your node?
No, I don't even know how to do that. I just buy Bitcoin. I don't know.
All
I
right.
do self
Well,
custody
We got a
though.
lot of work to do. Yeah,
super easy.
do
Yeah,
self
this is
custody.
this is why I thought I would ask everyone who gets on stage if they're running their node. Tomer, I would ask you, but that would be a,
Yes, I run a node.
a comedic
A
question.
2 hour lecture.
No. I
Oh,
didn't mean
okay.
that. I just meant that it's kind of obvious. I think he's got node written tattooed
Yeah.
all over his body.
His middle name is Node Runner.
Yeah, his body is a wonderland of nodes.
I wouldn't know that. Jordan's here. He drove 9.5 hours. What's up,
How's it
buddy?
going, everyone?
How
Hey,
are you?
I just gotta say, I'm doing good. I gotta say, this space is the best. I mean, all the other spaces, the price started going down, they start falling off, and people scatter and whatever. But the space is on every day, 9:30, my time at least. But appreciate you guys.
I got to say, I mean, the best is subjective, but there's other spaces that have been happening regardless of price action. Fred's been holding his ones. Jamie's been holding his ones. Sam has been holding their ones. Like, there's a lot of spaces. There's not a lot of Bitcoiners that are just absolutely pussy whipped by the price of other assets.
Are you saying
Um,
whichever space you go in, British, is the best one?
I mean, listen, you took it there, right? So I guess I can agree with you.
Hey, let's say hello to Chad. Chad's actually got his hand up, so he probably actually has something to say.
Hello, Chad.
Hey, Lauren. All I can say is, Vinny, you have just won a Start 9 node comp of me. We'll do it with Terrence, so you guys set it up, and I'll cover all the costs. Terrence, I'm counting on you to do the tech side, and I just want to follow along. Yes, I am running a node, but I hope everybody on this call starts running a node. It's time for us to step as Bitcoiners, strengthen the network, and Vinny, let's do it, buddy.
100%. That's super generous, Chad. And by the way, we don't need to jump into this conversation right now. Let's say hello to everybody. But I partially think, and Tomer, you can jump in here. I partially think some people don't run a node because of the phrasing that we say running a node. It sounds like there's something complicated to do, and there really isn't. But
Yeah, running a node is not much harder than running Microsoft Word or running a browser.
Running the
Um,
internet. I'm running the internet, Tomer. Are you?
no, you're not running the internet. I suppose maybe you are, but you're not running a full internet node. But it's a node is just a piece of software that runs on every operating system, every desktop operating system at least, and you download it and you run it. Uh, there's not much to it. It does take up space. You don't have to do anything, but it will take up space. So if you don't want it to take up too much space, you do have to set it to run in pruned mode. That's like a setting, also easy to do. And it's only really if you want to run a 24/7, always on node because you want to run a lightning node on top of it that things start to get a little bit more complicated. It's really kind and generous of Chad to offer to buy a Start 9 device for, was it Vinny? That's a really valuable device. That'll do all the really complicated things relatively easily. So you will be able to run a node. You'll be able to run a Lightning node. You'll be able to run mempool.space of your own. You'll be able to run all sorts of other cool things.
Yeah, tons of great apps, and
Yeah.
you don't have to depend on any third party to tell you what the price is, or if your transaction got through, or what the blocks are doing. Like, you get to verify and confirm for yourself. And also, these little packages like Start9 or like Umbrel, then you don't have to worry about your computer or extra space. Like, they're their own little servers, their own little hard drives. But let's say hello to Johnny Rockets, and then which I used to like to go to for a hamburger. And then let's say hello to Thomas.
Good morning, Bitcoin community. Hey, man, just wanted to come in and say hello. I appreciate everybody up here, man. This show starts my day when I'm out working. I have my AirPods in, I get to listen in, and just absolutely love Bitcoin today. Great show.
Thanks, Johnny. Let's say hello
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
Tommy Muffin. Oh,
Even
did
when
you have
British
something more to
Normal is
say,
here,
Johnny?
right?
Oh no, just you don't
That's
even know
it.
how much I appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing.
Oh, no, I
You
know.
guys
Lauren
are
tells me.
educating us.
Yeah,
Oh, I
Lauren
know.
writes me every night. He says, that Johnny Rockets guy really likes the show.
I love
Oh
Johnny
yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
Rockets.
I love your burgers too, Johnny Rockets.
Yeah,
So
aren't they good, Tomer?
equal. I wish we used to have a Johnny Rockets here, and then the last time I ate on a Johnny Rockets was like it was on a cruise ship. It was the hamburger joint on the cruise ship, but it's been a long time since I've had a Johnny Rockets burger, but very tasty.
Yeah, the little hack is to get a fried egg on the hamburger, which they are
Well,
famous for doing.
I'm definitely not the owner of Johnny Rockets. That's for sure. That was something that I picked up when I was in the AMC community. Everybody was picking memes for themselves and uh, little things, and I just picked up the Johnny Rocket as an avatar.
All
Cool.
right, well, let's move over to St. Thomas.
He's a franchisee.
Hey,
Thomas.
one thing I was going to say about running your own node, apart from having the validation independently and supporting the ecosystem, a lot of people are familiar with like Glassnode, where you're able to run a lot of on-chain analytics. Now they do it, and you can pay them to do that. But if the AI tools that are allowing you to develop your own custom code, you can start running analytics on the node that you're running. And like Glassnode, the professional is, gosh, almost $1,000 a year just to have all those things. Now, if you don't find that valuable, that's fine. But I think having on-chain analytics and insights to what's really going on underneath the cover. So, like, for example, when we talk about old wallets moving, well, you'll be able to go and interact with that and find out exactly what's moving. Is it moving from here to there? Are they diversifying the wallet? So, like, for example, if you saw 1,000 old Bitcoin move into 10 separate new wallets, you might say, well, they're just breaking it up. That's not necessarily a sale. Or you might find that, oh, this 1,000 went to this other big wallet. They probably did sell to a whale. So you can start to ascertain your own things. But I do think that's emerging, and it's going to be a lot easier and accessible to many people in the next year. So beyond having a node, you're actually going to start getting tremendous value from that if you append it with some of these analytical tools that you can develop with the AI today.
Well, there's a few things that you said. I just want to clear up for people. Running a node and paying for Glassnode are two different things. Glassnode is not a node. Glassnode is analytics. It's chain analytics software.
Yeah, I
So
was.
it uses the word node in its name, but it's not a
You
node.
can bypass the use of Glassnode by running the analytics on your own node.
Okay. So so I wanted to clarify that as well. You once you have your own node, you have all the data there, and there's different programs you can buy or download that are open source and free that you can do all sorts of analysis. So okay, I just wanted to set the record straight because there's people asking me. There's like at least one question in the thread: how much does it cost to run a node? And you had mentioned the Glassnode costs $1,000. But like for me, if you want to run a node on your laptop that you've already got running and it's pruned or you've got a spare laptop, your cost is essentially zero. I mean, it's the cost to keep a laptop turned on every now and then to sync it with the blockchain, which is trivial, right? It's negligible electricity consumption, and uh, the opportunity cost is the trade-in value of your laptop that you're running the node on. So
Yeah,
running a node is not hard and it's not expensive.
I wasn't. So I apologize, Tomer, if what I said commingled that in a confusing way. What I simply meant was running your own node gives you independence to run your own analytics and not rely on third-party applications like Glassnode. You can do it yourself. Now, clearly, if you're doing that and people are already tinkering and they're nerding out and they're getting open source software and running it, I was appending that and saying the AI tools that are out there today are going to allow you to do it in a less nerdy way. You're going to be able to basically set up these tools on top of your node and uh, run simple analytics that you find interesting.
That's cool. I
I
would add, like the terminology gets confused. This is a good point. This is certainly not directed at Thomas's previous comments. People get confused between the difference between having an offline cold storage signing device, having a node, having a 24/7 lightning node, running a miner. All of those things are different. They're different things, and they don't all require necessarily that you do all of them at once. If you have Bitcoin, we certainly, I think I speak on behalf of just about everybody here, but anyone's welcome to disagree. We recommend you take it into self custody using a cold storage device. That's a device that's not connected to the internet, so that there's no risk of your keys becoming compromised through a hack because someone needs physical access to the device, and usually a passcode or some other thing to do with it. And in self custody, your bitcoins can't get stolen. So that's one thing. Then, if you run a node, you can actually verify the transactions, verify the blockchain on your cold storage device with your node, which means you get added privacy because you're not broadcasting or checking addresses on the internet, and someone could be spying on you doing that. You're just doing it on your own. So you can verify the status of the blockchain. You also reinforce the strength and decentralization of the network by being another full copy of the entire Bitcoin blockchain that anyone in the world can connect and download. You don't have to worry about the privacy of that. The entire blockchain is already a public record. So that's what running your own node does. If you run a Start9 device with a 24/7 node on it, you can run an active self-custodied Lightning node on it, which gives you access to private, cheap, and fast transactions. And you can learn about that by a lot of different ways, including listening to the uh, lecture I gave on it a few weeks ago. And then if you want to mine Bitcoin, you're actually increasing the security of Bitcoin and potentially earning sats as they come into existence when blocks are discovered. Hopefully that's not too much of a mouthful.
No, that was great, Tomer. It just made me realize I was trying to remember what my delay was early on in running a node, and you know what it was? I thought that it was going to use too much bandwidth. I thought I don't want to slow down my internet. Other people in the house, I want them to be able to, watch Netflix or do their Zooms or what. Well, it wasn't Zooms because Zoom didn't
Couple of
even exist
megabytes
then.
every 10 minutes.
Yeah, and I had to do my own research because I couldn't find it anywhere, to realize that no, it uses almost nothing, and it's like days, weeks go by where forget I even have a node, until I just want to suddenly interact with it. And you know how we go down these steps of learning more and more about Bitcoin, and all of us, I think most everyone in this room, self custodies Bitcoin, or at least has some self custody Bitcoin, and so we learn about wallets and whatnot. And then you start to realize, well, wait a minute. Let's say I have a Trezor, right? But replace that with whatever your favorite device is. And you're using their Trezor suite software to interact with the blockchain, to see your transactions, to see what the price is, however you want to do it, you're using their software. And then you realize, well, wait a minute, I have self-custody. That's the premier way to secure and hold my keys so that my Bitcoin isn't with anybody else or any third party. Yet, if I'm not running my own node, I'm trusting Trezor's node to tell me about the transactions and to tell me my balance. I'm using their UTXO set, meaning their ledger, to tell me what the true balance is of my Bitcoin. And now, for the most part, that might be fine. And even if you multi-signature and you use a company like, Casa or Unchained or Swan or whoever, you're using their node to tell you everything. And so if you really want to go down the deepest path of full sovereignty and say, hey, I really want to trust no one but myself, you really want to run your own node. And then just the whole idea that your node is connecting with all these other people, like we do in this space, it's like that's the way to do it. Because I mean, really, we are the Bitcoin. So that's kind of what did it for me. It's like,
Terrence, in terms of,
that's that guy that always interrupts us.
yeah, so I just do it when it's incredibly timely. So in terms of origin stories, you're spinning up Lightning. So immediately after, I'm on the Sailor timeline, and when I wanted to go down the Lightning node, the first thing I did is I reached out to Tomer. And so this is not that Tomer needs more credibility or that I'm even adding to it, but in terms of, that thing we as humans still do where we reach out to people we trust. And so, that's going back a bit, but Tomer was there and that was my first Lightning channel.
Beautiful. Bitcoin Bull, you want to chime in here?
Hey, how's it going? Good morning, everybody. So, yeah, I run two nodes and one Lightning node as well. The thing that stopped me personally from wanting to run a node is, I wasn't computer savvy, so of course I relied on Grok to ask about it originally, and the easiest or the cheaper way, I guess to say, to try it would be like a Raspberry Pi, and that seemed a little bit difficult. So that was one thing. And then the other thing is Grok mentions, or whatever AI mentions, that it could be like a security risk for them, for a node running on your network. That was also another thing that originally stopped me. But now with Umbra on Start 9, like somebody else mentioned, just so everybody knows, it's extremely easy, almost just like store where you just click an app and turn it on. That's how easy it is. And it also has features like Tor, where you don't have to allow certain incoming connections or outgoing connections.
Are you still talking Bitcoin Bull or are you done?
There was a certain outgoing connection that was lost.
Yeah.
And
Dark, did you want to chime in here?
yeah, just one quick point before I got to hop. But you don't need to buy a Start 9 hardware to use the Start OS. They make it available. So if you have some old hardware and you want to get fired up with Start OS, which gives you all the functionality without having to spend $1,000, that's out there for you.
That's a really good point, Dark. Like running a node doesn't mean you have to have anything physical. It's just software.
I think the biggest thing with like running nodes is how many options there are. And I think for people like me that are kind of just like plebs that are easily distracted, like there's just a lot of options and it can be overwhelming. I'm kind of curious, like, 5-10 years from now, like, is it eventually going to be more streamlined so that just the regular normie out in public can just
You know what, Vinny?
run
I have to say, it's a lot like when you talk to normies about Bitcoin or self custody, and they just think it sounds overwhelming. And once you do it, it's not. Like, it's great that Chad's going to get you a start '09 or whatever if he's really doing that, because you'll see once you plug it in and you watch it download the entire time chain of Bitcoin, and then it's just like nice software, like your iPhone. Like there's little apps you can put here, and there's nice folders, and it's not hard to do at all. And there's really no excuse nowadays with AI. Like I've been running Core for a long time and I thought, oh, you know what? I want to run Knots. And I thought, you know what was delaying me for so long? It's like It took whatever 2 days to download the entire time chain with all of the blocks going all the way to Genesis blocked into January 2009. And I thought, oh my God, I don't want to go, another 2, 3 days, however long it is to download the whole time chain. And so I just used AI and I just said, hey, look, I'm running an Umbrel. This is my OS software, blah, blah, blah. I said, give me easy steps like I'm, as stupid as Lauren. And it said, here's the easy steps. And I found out I didn't even have to re-download the whole blockchain. There was a way for me to just convert it over and run knots. And then I did the same thing with BIP 110. I thought, oh, I want a signal for 110. I really like what it stands for. And I said, okay, let's do that. And I sat down thinking, oh, this is gonna, take a half hour or whatever. It took less than 2 minutes. It's like you went into my policy settings and click, 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 click. Oh, now I'm running 110. So
Well,
just use AI, Vinny. It stands for artificial intelligence.
I mean, if Lauren can figure it out, I don't see why I wouldn't be able to. So I'll definitely
Well,
get
that's
with
what I'm trying
Ted.
to say.
He's saying he couldn't figure it out, so he used AI. But Terrence does bring up a good point. A lot of these plug and plays come prepackaged with core. So if you are interested in making the switch like Terrence did, simple is what he's saying. AI it. It'll tell you what to do.
Yeah, that's true. So, hey, we haven't seen G Money here in a while. I know it's because you've probably been inundated with all the tax
Shillelagh.
documents that come in
Other
during
effers.
February. Yeah,
Don't
he's
pay
collecting his
taxes to the pedophiles.
1099s. Yeah, he's got a lot of 1099 divs, 1099 INTs. Now he's getting some 1099 DAs. What do you do with all that G Money? You just have a big shredder by your mailbox?
Shadalay, fellow Gwim. How are we doing today? No, I was golfing and kind of enjoying the beach and, kind of taking a break because all this stuff that I've been talking about has finally come true. So it's nice to kind of just relax and, realize you were right trying to tell these domesticated Bitcoiners how evil these motherfuckers are. But, here we are, guys. Here we are. And I just updated my node, Core V30. It's brilliant. By the way, something you guys are missing out on. I think you guys are explaining it pretty well. But I think the best thing for people to do is go buy a 2 terabyte USB-C stick. It's like 150 bucks. Plug it in, and then you don't have to keep it running the whole time. Like I only update my node like once a week. Plug it in. It takes like maybe a half an hour, 40 minutes. Let it download. And guys, a 2 terabyte stick was going to last like 7 to 9 years. So all the people spreading FUD about, oh my God, the blockchain's going to be bloated. It's going to be full. It's over. Chill out. Get a 2 terabyte hard drive, plug it in once a week, and support decentralization. But yeah, I figured I'd throw some chaos in here. You guys are going a little too normy lately, so shade away.
You'll be proud of me, G Money. Partially because of you, I deleted my LinkedIn account. Completely gone. I don't know why. I've had it for 2 decades, and I had to sit down one day and say, "What? Why do I even have this? All I do is accept friend requests and click, and then get all these stupid notices."
Was it
So,
because of the Reed Hoffman connection? Is that why?
well, I did hear that,
I
but
just want to
but
make
it's
a quick point. Reed Hoffman is the founder of LinkedIn, and he did have lots of dealings that are very suspicious with Jeffrey Epstein. But Microsoft bought LinkedIn, so it's no longer associated with Reed Hoffman. It's associated with Bill Gates.
well, I don't
Well,
use
that's even worse.
Microsoft anymore, so that's
Yeah,
good.
Bill
Exactly.
Gates is innocent.
Whose connections are even
Yeah,
worse.
I don't know what happened there. Um,
And then one of the things you guys can also run Tor in the background to make sure you anonymize and privatize your connection. So use the AI to configure that. But that's another cool little tidbit. But I would just recommend people get a USB stick for 150 bucks, run it once a week. That's, I think, the greatest way to do it, in my opinion.
So I got a question, you guys. The whole reason I came up, it's a two-part question, and it pertains to what G Money was talking about. My understanding of the op return limit and op return itself, that it was created so that the blockchain itself was not bloated with JPEGs, images, stuff like that. Is that incorrect, or does it have the same effect as something like ordinals?
I've got to run. I'd love to give you an answer. It's nuanced and long, so I don't have time to give to give the answer now. But I'll certainly happily let others. But I'll be rejoining in a half hour if you guys are still in halfway answering that question.
Yeah, thanks, Tomer. We do want to run also a special space on that, but we're also just waiting for Eric Rice. This is his day to host, but I grabbed the mic because we just have to kill some time until he gets here, which I think is in about 1 minute. So,
Rice and Beans show.
well, I'll be here all day, so I'll wait for Tomer to get back. And
Okay.
I did have one other question. I heard on another space, something about uh, version 110 being a protocol or a change that was it a protocol? I think they said protocol change
BIP
versus
110 is a soft fork.
a
And
software. Okay, so
Consensus.
can someone
and
kind of
right
break
now you can
consensus
just,
change?
yeah, at the consensus level, right now you can just signal whether you are for it or not.
Right. What's the difference between the consensus change versus just like running core or not?
So consensus, think of the Constitution, right? So nodes, we all have a Constitution. These are the rules, right? These are set in stone. And so if you change something, which is a big deal at the consensus level, that changes it for everything. No miner, no one can try to do anything if it doesn't abide by and follow those rules, right? That's what we mean when we say Bitcoin is a protocol. It's a set of rules, and that's consensus. Policy is much lighter, and policy is what you personally do, what Lauren personally does, what G Money personally does. You can set on your own node what you want to allow and not allow. So anyone, this is the freedom part of this technology, in that you decide what you want on your end. And so we all have to follow consensus regardless, otherwise nothing will get in a block. If your node decides, you don't want inscriptions or ordinals or whatever, that's up to you. But if other nodes agree to put it in their mempool and miners pick it up in their mempool, it's still going to go through. So you're not really changing anything in that respect, but you just may not want it on yours. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
And so 110
I
would
think so.
move. So 110 would be not just the policy of me not wanting inscriptions, but G Money wanting them. That would change the Constitution.
Right,
That would
just
change
for
the whole thing.
everybody.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be the option between knots and core 30 anymore. It would just be there's no more inscriptions.
Well, it's not that there isn't anymore. There's still ways. There's other technical ways, but yes, for the way that a lot of people do it at the moment, so it would make
Right.
it much more difficult. But I mean, look, anyways. I don't want to get into that discussion now. I think we want to run a whole space on that. But hopefully that answers your question on BIP 110. Right now, nothing is changing. There's people just signaling, and I think it's under 4%. It's like 3.8% or something are saying that they are in favor of 110.
Thanks,
Terrence,
y'all.
can I ask
And
you a question about that? Oh, sorry.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, if you want to take me down, I'll raise my hand later when Tomer gets back.
No worries. You can stay up here as long as you want. Lauren's the one that drops people.
Fucking Lord. All right, thanks.
Yep, that's me. Fucking Lord.
Vinny, did you have a
Vinny.
question, or should we head over to Humble?
Well, I heard on another space, there was a lady named Colleen who was debating with Justin on the BIP 110 thing, and it sounded like Colleen was saying that like they're kind of rushing the vote on that a little bit, and it was like a consensus change, which the way I understand it, it's different than on the at the node level. So I guess I'm kind of curious what your personal take is like. Are they kind of rushing this vote, or like why, like would they be able to like just delay it indefinitely, or like that I'm obviously not like very knowledgeable about like nodes and consensus change and votes and stuff,
What
so
do
I'm kind
you
of
know,
curious.
Vinny? Do you know anything?
I'm just
Why?
a troll,
Pokemon.
Why
man.
are
I'm
you
just a
here?
troll.
Who let him on
He's an
stage? Did you
expert
bring him
on
up, Lauren?
Pokemon cards.
I think
No,
at the end of the
I
day,
did
guys,
not.
it's really not going to matter kind of in this space because at the end of the day, the miners are going to decide because they're incentivized to mine blocks with more data because they get paid more. And so if they're going to be incentivized to do these larger blocks, by the way, we've been under attack multiple times before. And the only thing that actually happened was it made it a little bit inconvenient for us because the fees got higher, but the miners got paid off really well. And so remember, Bitcoin is not fragile. It's a cyber defense weapon of itself and it can protect itself. And so nodes, I don't think are really going to have anything to do with this battle, actually, because at the end of the day, the hash power, the miners will decide to mine the blocks with that extra data or not. Right? It's like, do you want to get paid to put, a dog butt on chain or not? And that's going to be up to them, not the nodes.
And G Money said, "P.S. Don't pay your taxes."
I mean, I always say that, Lauren. I mean, that's not going to change.
That was
I haven't
Terrence.
filed my
Said
taxes
don't pay.
yet, T
No,
Money.
that was you, Lauren. All right, let's say
Hmm.
hello to Humble. I'd
Hi,
like to
humble.
hear a female voice up here.
Hi, Humble.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Great.
Oh, yeah, nice. That's a nice new avatar you have.
Thank you.
So, what's on your mind today?
Humble.
Oh, is it wonderful? It's my turn to talk now, Lauren.
Yeah, it's time for Hummer to talk.
Yeah, great. Good morning, guys. Lauren invited me up here. I'm just saying good afternoon, actually. Sorry for me. Mic
Good
drop.
afternoon.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming up.
No problem.
That's all you got, huh?
What do you want me to say? Yeah. Tell me. What would you like me to talk about?
What's your opinion on paying taxes?
Oh, not talking about that.
It is kind of
There are
funny, though. It
plenty.
is kind of funny. All the tough American guys that are all upset over Bad Bunny. Oh no, Bad Bunny triggered me at the Super Bowl. We're going to turn into Kid Rock and TPUSA while they continue to fund pedophiles in their own government. So that's kind of ironic.
Did
Hey,
you
everybody.
watch
Eric Rice is here.
did you watch Kid Rock or did you watch Nasty Rabbit?
You know what? I watched Bad Bunny because I had a bunch of girls at my house and they were just dancing and shaking their asses. So if you're gay and you just want to watch a bunch of dudes rock or you want to watch chicks shake their ass, like Bad Bunny was the call, guys. Hate to break it to you. If you're gay, maybe watch, the dudes, but otherwise Bad Bunny rocked it.
I
Sorry.
don't know. I mean, did you hear like the words that they were actually saying? So I mean, you're talking about supporting pedophiles, but then the atmosphere that he's like putting out there, albeit in Spanish, so we can understand. But I understand that there are a couple. Oh, I don't know if there's senators. There are some people that are going after the Super Bowl committee for violations of FCC. So it's notable.
Yeah, I mean,
There
I
was
think it's.
there was also two guys grinding on each other on the Bad Bunny halftime show too. So I mean, that literally is gay.
Yeah, it is.
I
All right,
wasn't
Eric
watching.
Welcome,
Rice.
Eric.
I just
Yeah.
heard
What
We
you
Bunny.
walked into, buddy?
we filled the space for you for 30 minutes. We talked about pedophiles, taxes, and nodes. We did have some nice signal with some nodes, but we didn't want to go too deep because we knew you were here. So everybody, this is Eric's show today. I'm just on the handle for him because he had to jump in late. Take it over, Eric.
Yeah, hey guys. I don't even know where to begin here today, guys. This is walking into the storm here. It's all bread and circus. The game, the halftime show. It's all bread and circus. Distractions from life. Great to see you guys here. Sorry about that, guys. I had to actually do real work, so it's a little bit late here today. I think right now the world is waking up to a bunch of different things, and I don't know how rapidly that's occurring at the moment in time, but I do find it fantastic that we have this constant sale on Bitcoin right now because my buy button is going bananas. Have you guys talked about Bitcoin? I'm glad you guys talked about nodes. I think everyone out there should run a node. I think everybody out there should participate in the network, and I'm going to put it out there again. I would love to host a debate as professionally as possible for the Bitcoin community between BIP 110 and Core. I think it's just essential. I think people on both sides of the aisle have good things to say about it. And it's a matter of taking in the good and the bad and weighing them out and seeing which one is best for the community and for the platform as a whole and not just our own personal preferences. I think it's
Well,
a very
here's
good
here's
thing.
the good news that came from us talking about nodes this morning. So Vinny, who's here on stage, doesn't run a node, but Chad, Chodel,
Yeah,
is now going to buy him with his own money a Start 9, and I'm going to get Vinny set up. So one more person added to the 25,000 nodes that are in 150 countries right now.
nice. Yeah, I think if we can add, I don't know, call it 1 or 2,000 nodes per year, that's just a great thing for the network, no matter what we can do. And it's not hard, guys. It takes an hour to set up if you're slow.
If
And
you're
it's
Lauren.
or me, either one. But yeah, no, it's a pretty simple process. It definitely helps the network. It costs a little bit of money, of course. And I know that the debate is usually I could buy Bitcoin instead of running a node, but buying Bitcoin if there aren't enough nodes eventually is kind of a losing proposition. So it's a worthwhile investment to do, and I would advise everyone does it. But I want to talk about the thing that kind of stuck out to me this morning was the retail sales numbers, which are flat at 0 or 0.2. Guys, the American consumer is pretty much tapped out right now, and I know that there's debate about that because all of our government numbers look good, markets look good, but the American consumer is pretty tapped out on cash. They're still using credit cards. They're still using credit cards. That's still going up. Household debt is now, I think, $18.8 trillion, up 191 billion. So if retail spending is down, savings numbers in the banks are down, and consumer debt is up, that's a pretty logical tale to tell. And I think that that is a major liquidity concern in the markets themselves. And I want to point out another thing. There's a lot of people sharing information about Trump saying he was disappointed in his pick for Fed chair. I believe he was in that interview. I just didn't see it last night. Saw it this morning. But I believe that interview he's talking about Jerome Powell, not Kevin
Yeah,
Warsh.
100% Powell. That was bad clickbait.
Yeah. Well, be wary because Twitter is nothing but clickbait. In fact, people who, this is the interesting thing I saw last night, people who never even talk about Bitcoin are now just throwing Bitcoin as the first word in any post they have for rage baiting. This is a problem in society when influencers get paid for engagement and attention. And I know it's great, and I know that there's some people out there that are making a killing at it and doing a great job, doing a good job of expressing their view and trying to share the truth. But there are a lot of people out there right now who just do not care about the truth or whether or not you get information you're looking for. They just care about getting paid. So it's something to always weigh on your mind as you're going through social media, especially X, which is really the most monetizable platform in the world. You know, it's even gotten so bad where we're at Hunger Games now. Like, if all of you plebs shall write me articles to increase engagement, I will grant one of you $1 million. So when you have that type of environment, you're going to find that people are going to write the most controversial, nonsensical lies in the history of the world, or just, rage bait keywords all day long because it gets engagement. And it works. It's a very successful technique to be able to do that, especially if you have like an alter ego or an anonymous account where you're not personally going to be held liable for it. There's a lot of that stuff going on. So just stay calm and try to find, the resources that provide truth. They generally don't have a ton of, oh, wow. While we're sitting here, my brother-in-law just sent me a text literally just now. He called me and then sent me a text. He said, I finally bought a Bitcoin. So my brother-in-law is now a whole coiner, and couldn't be happier about that. That's awesome. I've been on
Wait,
him
that's
for
his
a while.
first purchase? Just boom, 1 Bitcoin?
He actually worked at a Bitcoin IRA company about 5 years ago for about 6 months, and he had a little bit of Bitcoin, but then he went into some difficulties and job transition, had to sell them to pay for stuff. And now I've been on him for months and months, and he just texted me here. I started with 25,000 and wanted to ask you the best strategy moving forward, but you were busy last night, so I just went ahead and bought a whole coin. There he goes. So he got himself back on his feet, rebounded a little bit, saved some cash, and now he is a whole coiner at 69.5. So pretty good entry price for him. The thing I'm noticing, Terrence, is right now the world is trying to confuse as many people as humanly possible, whether it's rage bait, clickbait, paid social media influencers, your friends, your families, halftime shows, Super Bowls, national title games, basketball, whatever it may be. I mean, I was with some guys last night that are smart guys, and for half of the conversation, they were talking about the NBA, and I'm like, guys, I haven't watched an NBA game in 40 years. I have no idea who you're talking about, and it's dumb. Like, you should probably stop watching it because it's fake. But we have the opportunity here to be able to discuss real things, and I would love to hear the naysayers that think, oh, the average American consumer isn't tapped out. No, they're not tapped out at all. The American consumer is tapped out, which means that retail liquidity is dried up. Where is the liquidity coming from? And I know a lot of people get mad at him, but Scrooge McDuck, who comes up here all the time, does talk, pinpoints the tariffs as a $30 billion liquidity suck from the economy, and he's right. Because there's none of that is being pumped back in as of yet. But liquidity all across the board seems to be drying up, which is why we're not seeing a whole lot of movement in Bitcoin. What are you guys thinking about this? And have you guys covered that? Thomas, I'd love to get your opinions on the liquidity in the market and the difficulties and the challenges of what happens in a market where retail is completely tapped out.
Yeah, Eric, liquidity is an issue, and I would just say the issue is the political reaction to the lack of it. So at the one end that you just described, Eric, where people are tapped out and don't have marginal disposable income, not only are they probably not buying, but if they have had a small amount of any kind of asset like Bitcoin or even some of the crypto, they're going to sell it to cover living expenses. So it's going to go in the wrong direction. At the other end of the spectrum, you have the compression of the Japanese rates and the U.S. rates. I think it's below 2% now, the spread on the 10 years. And that just puts pressure on what has been for many years a carry trade that basically borrows yen for cheap and invests it in the West. And comparing the two 10 years gives you a sense of the economics. As that compresses below 2%, people who have leveraged trades there, and all the carry trades are levered by design, they have to unwind those positions. And so and that liquidity sucks out of the West, right? So if I'm sitting at a 5-to-1, 10-to-1 carry trade ratio, and I reduce my exposure or close my position, those typically hedge funds and large capital pools are reducing their investment in the West, and that liquidity shows up in the form of selling. But it's really a yen carry unwind as opposed to a vote of no confidence in the underlying assets. So now the issue is, what is the reaction, the political reaction to uh, liquidity weakness in the economy, and what will the new Fed chair do about it? We've had, and again, so I'm going to bookend the responses. Historically, after the great financial crisis, liquidity ended up on the banks' balance sheets. So there was TARP bailout and there was banking system bailout, but it didn't necessarily trickle out to consumers. So we didn't see the massive inflation that we saw at the other end of the bookend, which was the way we handled COVID. COVID, they carpet bombed the economy, and it went to the end users. The most, I guess, the most obvious one was the PPP program, where it was a very low bar for small business owners to get cash. Very little oversight, very little accountability, lots of fraud, but lots of money as well. Where you got this, and it was basically a loan that was forgiven, and not only forgiven, it did not count as income, so it was tax-free money, and that money got spent by lots of people. So that manifested in inflation. So it'll be very interesting to see what the political reaction is and what Warsh does. And then I'll add in one more variable to consider. And again, by the way, I don't have the answer here. I have 10 questions for every answer that I might have. The other question I have is, how is the whole midterm politics going to affect the ability of the U.S. to react to economic issues? So if we had a bipartisan solution, you might say, well, let's have a nice coordinated response. Let's make sure the economy is strong and healthy. But we don't have that. We have uh, uh, a highly divided Congress. They won't approve U.S. attorneys. Judges are backlogged. We can't get the voter ID stuff through, even though 80% of the country wants it. You can't get voter ID through the system because it's broken. So I think the Democrats will they'd burn they'd burn the cities to the ground if it got Trump out, which hurt Trump. So they'll subordinate what's good for the country, even though they might agree if it hurts Trump, because they view Trump as the prima facie existential threat to their existence. That's probably a fair assessment on their part, but it's not good for the country. So I'm paying attention to what's happening to this liquidity issue and how the political system reacts to this. And then Eric, you mentioned that Bitcoin's on sale. It's on sale in a long time preference. If I think of out to 2030, I think very few people would, especially Bitcoiners, would say we're not going to be at a much higher level in 2030. What I personally cannot make heads or tails of is, what do the next 90 days, 6 months, a year look like? Personally, I just don't think the next 90 days, and we're not traders, but we are interested in price performance. At least I am. I think we're probably going to go sideways on Bitcoin until there's better clarity, and then a lot of the questions that I pose, which I don't have answers to.
No, valid points. Valid points. Yeah, I think one of the main issues with price that people aren't equating to, well, some people are in the Bitcoin space, is that the longer price is in the 60s, especially the mid to high 60s, the more minor capitulation you'll see. Many on the PPA arrangements with high energy costs, they're not profitable at this range. So could that be aligned in some area? Because I know some people have said that this is ridiculous, but it's absolutely true because there's 3 posts about them today. A lot of these large PPA miners, huge hyperscalers that are miners, they are massively tied into energy grids, and many of them have been anticipated to, sell off a portion of their other mining to be able to facilitate AI. And we've now seen 6 states ban data centers, which probably won't last. It's more symbolic than anything. I've already gotten through a ban of data centers to build an operation. There's many loopholes behind it, but you may want to consider that in the thesis, as well as the price actually has to go up for a lot of these guys to remain profitable, because the longer we stay in this 60s, if it dips into the high 50s, you're going to see minor sell off. They're going to have to. They don't have ancillary income. They're going to have to sell off some of their Bitcoin and drive the price down a little bit just to maintain operations. Or we may see this being used as an excuse to be able to transition from mining into AI energy facilitation, which is going to happen. Like, I don't really care what anyone else's opinion is of the space. There are certainly going to be folks that when AI becomes a steady stream of income that's predictable, they'll sell off some of their miners and use their energy for AI data centers. That certainly will happen, not in a large scale, but that's actually a good thing for Bitcoin because it will decentralize mining over time. So one thing to look at there as well, Thomas, I love the carry trade analogy, because the carry trade is more of a high net worth play, institutional play. The retail side of things right now, I mean, I'm just a normal guy, hang around normal people all the time, and man, there's just a serious division between, say, one neighborhood and the next neighborhood. One neighborhood is still going on vacations. The other neighborhood is starting to buy generic stuff at the store. There's really this bifurcation of society right now, where it's being divided into haves and have-nots even more. And I don't know that there's any relief for that. And I don't even know that, Warsh coming in, if he's still the guy, we don't know. But him coming in and lowering interest rates rapidly certainly will help with consumer borrowing, but that'll add more debt to the books. So the lower the rates, the more people borrow. That should help home sales, even if prices remain high. If mortgage rates are lower, people will go further into debt. We're already at $18.8 trillion. These are massive, massive questions that we have moving forward. I don't know that there's an answer to it. There's only a philosophy behind it, because we don't know what we don't know.
I don't believe there is any silver bullet that's going to address this tale of two cities, right? I think, and I would just make it this bifurcation: people who are asset heavy or asset rich are going to do very well. Bitcoin is an asset. There are other assets. Most of these, all these assets are going to do great. I just think Bitcoin is the one that ends up on top by 2030. But all assets, I think, are going to do well. Where the wages are simply not going to keep up. So I negotiate a lot of union contracts, and the union contracts are 3, 4, sometimes they're 5 years. And I look at the wages that are being proposed, and I'm on the management side when we're doing these. And for the most part, I'm fairly pro-union, especially the working class unions like the Teamsters, because these are the people who make in our case, the town work, and without them, we would really be screwed. So and so I tell them, I said, look, you're agreeing to a 3 and 4% wage increase. And I said, you understand where we're going to be in the next few years. It's going to be upside down. So this goes for our police, our public works people. I just think the wage dependent are not going to keep up, and the tension between the asset holders and the wage holders is going to grow. And one question, Eric, that I would have for you, as somebody who knows more about mining than your average bear, I was just at a recent event, and I was socializing with people. I don't remember exactly where it was, but the person started asking about Bitcoin, and they were blaming Bitcoin for the high utility rates that we were seeing in New Jersey. And that narrative is going to get pushed out there, whether it's true or not. And those are the kind of things that it creates additional class division. So I think it's important for people, maybe you can give a good answer as to why that is a false statement for the most part. I think that there are places where there's competition for electricity that drives the rates up in a market, but it's much less acute than the way it gets portrayed in many cases.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very simple answer. So, first and foremost, about 63% of Bitcoin mining right now comes from renewable or captured energy. So, this is energy that wasn't being used for anything else. It is the most energy efficient game in the world. You cannot be a successful miner with high energy costs. So, there's always a initiative for invention or necessity of processes to be able to continually lower energy prices. Most successful or highly profitable miners are off grid generating their own energy. The ones that are using the grid are actually a balancing mechanism. So when there's an overage of energy, they're purchasing it. When energy is lower, they're selling it back cheaply to the grid. So that is a complete misconception. In fact, the example I always give is Texas. When I moved to Texas in 2020, a couple months later in early 2021, we had a huge snowstorm, ice storm, and we had rolling brownouts and then temporary 45-minute blackouts all over the region. About 6 months later, they passed a bill allowing more miners to take place. We just went through 2 more snowstorms with no electrical outages. So it does help balance the grid in general, but more importantly, it's always a drive towards cheaper energy. If your energy prices are going up where you live, you could easily correlate that to the data centers that really have massive amounts of hyperscaling dollars. They're buying energy at any rate that they can find. Many of them are actually trying to become fully vertically integrated with natural gas pockets so that they have it from the ground into a pipeline onto a facility to fractionate and then create energy. And those don't impact your prices. However, there are a lot of off-grid guys like me who, like, if we're doing like 12 megawatts on an off-grid deal, we sell 2 megawatts back to the grid cheap, 2-3 cents per kilowatt hour. That's the price that the energy companies are paying. So just so you know, and this is specifically in the state of Tennessee. State of Tennessee, you're getting, if you're selling energy to the grid, you're getting about 2 to 3 cents. I think the average consumer across Tennessee is paying about 11 and a half. So that spread margin is really from the utility companies. They're in control of the prices that you pay, and it's all profit margin. They have CEOs, they're quasi governmental agencies. So Bitcoin's an easy thing to blame, but the reality is it's the data centers that are being installed. They just banned them in New York State because there are 2 major hyperscaled AI data centers right now that have seen massive amounts, like you're talking about 30 to 50% increase in local energy prices because of these data centers, and an increase in their water prices in Texas. Huge water drain in West Texas from some of the data centers there. So people will get AI data center with Bitcoin mining confused, but Bitcoin miners predominantly who work on grid are the best thing for 75-year-old grids. They help balance the energy, and by doing so, they balance the cost. It's a really unheralded version. Like, the actual energy efficiency of Bitcoin probably deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. You can't identify one person, but in reality, Bitcoin miners have done more to lower energy cost and create a more balanced environment for energy allocation than any other industry on planet Earth, with the exception of possibly nuclear. But even that is a jumbled game. Does that help you understand that a little bit, Thomas?
It does, and I think and the answer, distilling it down a little bit, is there's a regional answer. I mean, it depends on exactly where you're at. If you happen to be in New York in that area, it could be a problem, or West Texas with the water. I think Bitcoiners should be familiar with this question and have a cogent answer for people, and because again, most people will have their friends and network will know them as somebody who's in Bitcoin. So as Bitcoin becomes a bigger issue in society, they'll come at you with questions. Sometimes the questions will be rhetorical. There'll be talking points that they hear from the media. A lot of the things that we hear in criticisms, like as an example, the one going around now is that Jeffrey Epstein created Bitcoin, right? So it's ridiculous and also irrelevant to the fact that it's open source code. But you need to have good answers for people because they're being manipulated or fed from their social media platforms that are often giving them misinformation. So I just think it's important for people to have good answers to this when confronted over the course of the coming months. Because I do think that the other concern that I have with Bitcoin in the short term is that there is a perception that it is a Republican asset and not a Democrat asset. And so to the extent that people are tribal and choose teams, they can't see past that as it's a politically neutral asset that's good for everyone.
Yeah, make no mistake. I don't think there's any coincidence. First, I just don't believe in coincidence. The word doesn't exist in any translation of the Bible. But there are no coincidences that at the time of the Clarity Act, where the banking industry is obviously heavily influenced to keep any interest rates that's being paid to the stablecoin issuer, that there would be no coincidence in the fact that a Bitcoin is being attacked as it was created to traffic children. That's not why it was created. Certainly, I have no doubt that people have used Bitcoin for many nefarious purposes. However, a majority of the relationships, the Epstein thing is pretty easy. If he invented Bitcoin, why did he order a book called Bitcoin for Dummies? When he was asked, is Bitcoin investable, why did he say no? Why did he say we need to increase anti-Bitcoin FUD with Peter Thiel? There's so many different people that just don't. They read what they want to read. They get the answer they want. They don't look for the context or the full story. That's pretty obvious. But at the same time, he was very much anti-Bitcoin. If you read through all of the emails, and very pro Jamie Dimon and J.P. Morgan. People forget that J.P. Morgan was really under some heat 2 Fridays ago with what was happening in the metals market, and miraculously that news completely disappeared, and everyone's just talking about Jeffrey Epstein being Satoshi Nakamoto, despite the fact he couldn't type the word Bitcoin. There is no space between bit and coin. It is actually one word. And I would think that the creator of Bitcoin would certainly know that. But there's not a whole lot you can do once people hear something. I don't spend a whole lot of time I don't even spend a whole lot of time on Twitter. I actually find it more entertaining to watch it than to argue with people, because eventually this blows by and blows over, and people get back to seeing the reality of the world, which is the fact that the banking system is what's screwing you, not some decentralized protocol that provides sound money. Camilios, what's going on, brother?
Not much, man. I just wanted to ask a question about the the mining thing. Do you feel like their institutions or some of these big mining companies are doing anything synthetically to shake out smaller miners and try to, I wouldn't say maybe centralize it, but try to get the upper hand on the mining game?
No, I mean, well, first of all, I won't say no definitively in the world we live in, right? Like anything is possible. If 2026 has taught us anything, guys, it's that anything is possible. It's very difficult to do. So you have more of an attempt to centralize mining through pools than you do through miners themselves. It's very capital intensive. I don't think people appreciate just how many hundreds of billions of private dollars have gone into building the infrastructure of Bitcoin. It is a massive undertaking. I've been in some locations that have 65 to 70,000 ASICs going at the same time. You're talking about a tremendous amount of money. But when you're looking at Marathon or some of these other big players, they can have as many ASICs as they want. Even the pool, the threat of centralization in the pools is fairly easy to explain through. But no, I don't think they're doing anything to centralize it. I think that it's more of a land grab than anything else. That when you find big institutional Wall Street players that have huge Bitcoin mining operations, which it's my opinion, I'm not stating it's a fact, but it's my opinion that large institutionalized miners are the antithesis or the antithesis of Bitcoin itself. I think that was meant to be done by all of us, not by mega corporations publicly traded on stock exchanges. That is my opinion. And I have no problem with them doing it. That's the other thing. I don't care if you buy IBIT. I don't care if you buy, Mara. That's up to you. It's what your money that you vote with. My money would always be on the off-grid guys that are producing Bitcoin very cheaply and not having to sell it in the market. But could they be doing something to the price? I mean, maybe, but I don't see that being the case. I think these are profit centers that they're converting energy into algorithmic mathematics that's producing for them the hardest asset ever created. And I think that that's ultimately been their goal. I think the major threats to centralizing Bitcoin are not going to come from mining. Like a 51% attack is exceptionally difficult. Some would argue that it's almost mathematically impossible. And most of the threats that existed with Bitcoin existed when the hash rate was much lower. So I think the threat of centralization comes in ownership. And I think that's why you're seeing institutions and treasury corps and things like that. It's just we need to have an honest talk in the mirror with ourselves about whether our own ownership of IBIT or self custody Bitcoin is the right thing for us, because it's not the same for everybody. As all of you know, I'm a huge advocate for decentralizing mining as far as it can go, and for self custody Bitcoin. But I certainly understand the other end of the token. I understand the other side of the token, where a business is a business, and if mining Bitcoin is profitable, businesses are going to do it. And if you've got IRAs or some simple way to get price action access to Bitcoin, you're going to do it. But I think I've been talking about this for months, is the re-education of Bitcoin. Now that people have Bitcoin, let's start talking to them about pulling it off exchanges first and holding it in self-custody. Obviously, Coinbase is fake and gay in all capacities. It's literally the worst commercial I've ever seen. The dumbest Letterman's jackets also. These are altcoin guys that are masquerading as Bitcoiners. And ultimately, their goal is to hold as much of it for you as possible. And the banks are going to get into it, and custody companies are going to get into it. I don't see a threat from mining or from pools. I'll be happy to have a longer debate with someone who does, which is probably somebody who isn't in Bitcoin. But I'm sure Tomer is up here now. He can explain that a little bit more detail than I can. But the true threat, I think, comes from, do you own it in self-custody or do you not? I think that's the threat that is most apparent to all of us. What do you think, Tomer?
I only tuned in halfway through your spiel, so I didn't.
It
I didn't
doesn't
get the
matter,
whole
Tomer.
thing.
You're supposed to know what's going on.
Yeah, at all times,
Okay.
Tomer.
Yeah. Okay. So I completely disagree with Eric and everything he ever said. Um, what did I pick up on? The the re-education. Listen, I could not be more on board with wanting people to understand what it is that they have here and how it works, so that they can make sound decisions for themselves by themselves, rather than listen to recommendations and advice from people like me and everybody else here. It's Bitcoin at its heart is about people taking self responsibility and ownership and verification of truth for themselves. And so, I can tell you, you should run a node. How do you know that that's true? I can tell you, you should self custody. How do you know that that's true? So there has to be some curiosity. And I think people who've been brought to Bitcoin solely on the story, the number only goes up, and now it turns out that it hasn't gone up, have been sold a bill of goods. The, like Bitcoin doesn't only go up in fiat terms. The fiat dollar is chaotic, and although the Bitcoin issuance and supply is predictable, what people think of it, how much they think it's worth, what incentives lure them to sell their Bitcoin and to trade their Bitcoin. Those things change over time, and that's why we have as dynamic and volatile a price as we've always had. And people who put forth theories saying it'll never go below the 200-week moving average, or below this spiral curve, or below, or it's in a 4-year cycle, or it's no longer in a 4-year cycle. That's like just their opinions, man, to quote the Big Lebowski. But there are things about Bitcoin that are its facts, and that's what I'm really keen to educate people on, and to have people understand, and to do my best to answer questions that they may have that I didn't answer, and to get to the truth on a lot of this stuff. So I don't know if that's in line with what Eric was saying or not, but it's my interpretation, given my biases.
Totally wrong, Tomer. I was telling them to buy IBIT and throw away their cold wallet, and that everything is falling apart, and that Epstein
Right.
created
Oh,
Bitcoin.
you just remind you remind me of two things now. One was I wrote an article on the weekend, and I'll post it to the nest. I'm driving now, so but it was a reflection on. I think I called it "Bitcoin is More," and I wanted to point out in the article that it was Bitcoin's more than just money. It's more than just software. It's it's a and the metaphor that I used, Terrence, I went for a big metaphor, that it's a form of citizenship. It's not citizenship in a country with borders, but citizenship basically is the exchange of allegiance to to something in exchange for certain protections. And if you pledge allegiance, which you don't have to pledge allegiance. You have to run a node and take self custody of your Bitcoin. And if you do that, then Bitcoin offers you certain protections. Right? It offers you protection from inflation. It offers you protection from seizure of your property, and I go into a couple of other details
I threw
in
it up
in
there
the
for you,
article.
Tomer, since you're driving.
Thank you. Thanks. So those protections are protections that you can't actually get anywhere else, and they may complement the protections you get from your country, depend on what country you're a citizen of, and they may provide protections from the country, depending on what country you live in, and that may change from time. The protections that you need may change from time to time, given a country that you live in, and they're protections that you can take with you anywhere in the world, wherever you go. They're independent of national borders, and and I think that's to me one of the most important things. But it's only true, and this was your comment on IBIT. It's only true if you take it into self custody. You don't have any of those protections from seizure and the paper printing of these things if what you hold is an ETF or stock or like regulated securities issued by a company whose stated mission is to hold Bitcoin. I'm not saying don't do those things, but you're not getting the protections that Bitcoin was specifically engineered to give you. And the fact that, and so all of these things are in a sense derivatives. They're financial speculations on the freedoms and rights that Bitcoin actually grants you. That's a bit of a tangent, but
Tomer, are you saying that if I put a sticker on my front door and I say, "Hey, I own a gun," and I don't own a gun, that's not good enough? I actually should own the gun? I thought the sticker was enough.
well, the sticker can serve as a deterrent. So in one particular instance, it like the robber's going door to door, he sees a sticker, he'll go next. He might go next door because he doesn't want. But if a robber decides to go into your house and you don't own a gun, you don't have the protections of a gun.
Okay, I'm starting to think maybe I should own the gun and not just the sticker of the gun.
No, 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 don't do that,
Well,
Terrence, because owning a gun is very complex and difficult, and you may lose the gun. But come to me at JP Morgan. I'll hold your gun for you so that you have access to it anytime you want. As long as you ask me permission, I will give it to you. Does that sound good, Terrence?
Actually, I love what Tomer said one day. I think he said it on this space. He said, "Paper airplanes are not the same as airplanes."
That's really well
referring
put.
to paper Bitcoin, we had an issue this weekend, right? One of these exchanges, it sounds like some intern was supposed to send $2 worth of Korean won to a whole bunch of people, and which is 2,000 Korean won, and they actually sent 2,000 paper Bitcoin, amounting to a grand total of 620,000 paper Bitcoins to clients, and a bunch of people sold it off, and that was one of the things that wreaked havoc on the price, at least on that exchange. It may have had toxic effects elsewhere, but that was paper Bitcoin. And if people withdrew real Bitcoin against their paper Bitcoin, then that exchange is now short Bitcoin and they don't have it to pay back. And so this is why we say, not your keys, not your coins. Get your coins off the exchange. Like when you have Bitcoin in self custody, when there's an entry on that blockchain at an address to which you own the private keys, you are the only person in the world who knows the private keys, that's yours. Nobody can take that away. Nobody can dilute it. Nobody can reverse the entry. That's that's the real deal. And when Coinbase has a database that says, I don't mean to pick on Coinbase specifically, but any exchange has a database that they created that says you have one Bitcoin. If they don't have the Bitcoin to give it to give you, it really is just an IOU. It says we owe you 1 Bitcoin, and if you ask for it and we happen to have it, and the government doesn't say not to give it to you, and we're operational and everything else is okay with our business, then we'll make an on-chain transaction and give it to you. But if not, if we suspect that you may be a money launderer or have made some, transactions that are uh, that trigger our security system, or or we don't have the Bitcoin to give to you, you don't have the Bitcoin. So it's a real difference. And I know different people express this with different levels of emotion on here. If it's not your keys, it's not your Bitcoin. So I I strongly recommend, based off of what I hope you now understand, if you didn't understand before, that if you're investing in Bitcoin, you take custody of it, because that's the protection that it offers you. It's the idea of owning something that can't be taken away from you, not asking somebody else to take care of it for you. And it's very similar to Terrence's example of the gun, right? Like, you don't need a gun as long as the state is there to protect you. But if the state isn't there to protect you, or worse, if the state is attacking you, you need a gun to protect yourself. And so putting trust in others to do what you hope they will do is naive. And you may get through life being naive, but it, it it's a vulnerability that you don't need to expose yourself to.
Tomer,
Sounds like
when
Bitcoin is a weapon system. So I'm glad you guys are pointing to the fact and comparing Bitcoin to weapons, because it absolutely is a weapon system. And the individual is the operator to choose how to operate that weapon.
I don't disagree with that at all. But Tomer, do you think that when somebody buys a Bitcoin at Coinbase, like the entire office erupts in Backstreet Boys?
I never worked. I have a friend of a friend who works there. I'll ask.
All right, well, that would be good. That would be good insider information, because I literally have that stupid commercial stained into my mind right now. So we're going to move on from that dumb topic. Camilios, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, do you guys think that either some of you, or if there may be others, if we can get some spaces around building some products and services that are more consumer friendly for Bitcoin, that are true Bitcoin maxi methodology, right? Just not a shield, but context. I'm building something myself with no third party uh, requirements or anything like that, and I'm going to put it out in the marketplace. But I haven't found any good spaces or people to interact with that are building for Bitcoin that are like-minded, like the people in this group. So, just putting that out there.
Yeah, I think that's an initiative I would like to listen into. I'm just an off-grid energy guy, but I would love to listen into that, and I think that that's pertinent to the ecosystem. Just imagine where Bitcoin would be right now if altcoins decided to build on layer 2 instead of their own financial gain initiatives. Like that, I think about that quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it'd be wonderful when you have your business ready to go, announce, talk about that, you would come here and talk about it. I think it'd be great if we got someone from Steak and Shake to come and talk here. There's not that many businesses that are specifically built for Bitcoin Rails, and there's, no matter what business it is, I hate to tell you, there's going to be Bitcoiners who disagree and say you're doing it wrong, because Bitcoin is not a system of everyone being completely in agreement on anything except for its consensus rules, and they don't even agree on what those should be. They agree what they are, but like that is, the more that people share ideas and launch and spread the good word of their businesses, the more chance they have for success. But I don't think that there's enough businesses to have like a regular daily or even weekly spaces on all these Bitcoin businesses. There's been a lot of ideas that have been tried, and they work to some degree and they don't work to others, and they work best when there's certain compromises made, it would appear. So I'm eager to hear what your business idea is.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, just real quick, I'll throw it out there. I built an inheritance estate planning application that has no third party involvement. You control all keys, and you can use a wizard to create vaults with mini scripts that have deadman switches, time locks. You can push it across Noster. You can there's multiple different ways you can run these wizards to create these vaults, and it just requires your key. It creates a vault key and your heirs key, and that's it. And it even has estate
That's
planning
cool.
legal documentation that can go along with it that are just basically templates that you can take to an actual lawyer and say, hey, you need to bake this into my estate planning. um, there's been some hurdles, just technical hurdles, getting a lot of it worked out, but it's launched and it's open source. I've got an MIT license for it. It's up on GitHub, and I just want to kind of get it out in the community and see if it's worthy of people actually using it. So,
Well, Terrence will speak to this, but Terrence has played around with other Miniscript wallets, he's told me, and he's recommended a couple to me, and I haven't had the time yet, but I'm sure Terrence would be happy to take a look at your product, and maybe you could come here and do a walkthrough at one point.
yeah, I'm absolutely game. Terrence, I'll send you something on it, and we can see. I've got a lot of documentation that talks about the technical aspects of everything, and I published a white paper for it. So it's all on the website. It's linked on my profile, and I've got a Twitter account for it. So
And I
Yeah.
have had lunch with Camilios, and good guy. He's in the DFW area, so good guy. I would love for
I'm
you
a,
two to connect.
I'm a real person, not a
Did,
lizard, by the way.
did you
He's
Just
a
vibe
real
code this
lizard
thing
person.
in 10 minutes? Was this hand coded or vibe coded or a combination? I'm just,
sorry, I couldn't hear all that.
I was joking. I was asking, did you vibe code this over the weekend? Or
Hell yes, absolutely. 19 times just to get one thing to work, and it's evolving.
Also,
Terrence,
if
don't
you're
want to
a
put too many Bitcoin in there.
are you a if you're a product guy too, I have a another idea I can pitch to you to make, because I wouldn't know how to make it. But all these different hardware devices are out there, but no one has made one that is waterproof and floatable for all the boat accidents. And I just feel like that would save a lot of Bitcoiners. Like, it's just so obvious. Put a GPS on it, make it floatable. As you can see from my profile picture, I love to boat with my signing device. I never know when I'm going to need to spend some Bitcoin.
That's a fair point. You don't want it to get lost with the guns when your boat sinks.
Yeah. So, anyways, just something to think about. It's yours. I just gave it to you.
You can brand
Right
it
on.
Bits Ahoy. That's what you can brand it, Terrence. Bits Ahoy.
I'm not sure how you would vibe code something that's waterproof though.
No, you can't. You can't. Definitely going to have to talk to some hardware people.
But the vibes could be so vibrational that the water doesn't even touch it, Vinny.
Right. I mean, you might be able to build the app to track it once you lose it.
All right,
That's about the best you're going to do.
let's keep diving. This is a good conversation. I would love for you guys to connect, like on a one-on-one level. Many of you don't know this. It's kind of strange to me that when you go into DMs with people in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little phone icon. You can actually have encrypted phone calls with people on Twitter without giving out your number. It's actually a really good feature of the space.
It's the only way I like to do phone calls these days. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, same. Like I probably have like 5 or 6 of them a week with, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with people if I have the time. But it's a great way to connect. I would love for you guys to talk about that. And if it's a project that's worthy of coming on here and describing, like, let's do it. Let's do some product features. I think it's a good idea. G Money, you're totally
For
right.
people new to that feature, you do have to follow each other in order for that feature to
That's
work.
correct.
I found out many times. Yeah.
And Tomer just plugging in his shameless follow me right now for his X income of millions per month that he gets every month.
I've
Well, when the
never
phone call is
monetized
lame,
that.
you just unfollow afterwards. That's what I do.
G Money is right though. Bitcoin is a weapon. I think it's a nuclear option for what we're seeing right now, and how it plays out. I have no idea. I don't make those claims, but I think that we're in a position right now where I think it's more important than ever to have self-custody bearer assets of any type, and people who are building to strengthen that and make it simpler for other people, because that has evolved. If you look at self-custody, it's gotten so much easier over the past 5-10 years, and it'll continue to get easier. It's going to involve effort and studying and being diligent, of course, because it's something that's valuable. And I think that this won't be a waste of anyone's time to spend a couple hours learning how to do it, no matter who you are. People will spend 4.4 billion hours watching cat videos, but they won't watch a 1 hour tutorial on how to self custody their own assets. It's kind of fascinating to me.
Those cats
Well,
never
and
fall
more
down the
important,
same way,
They
Eric.
don't. It's mystifying.
I was going to say, like people will spend many hours watching technical analysis and investment videos, which don't actually teach you how to successfully invest. And technical analysis is basically bullshit. Uh, but they won't take a few hours to watch a video on. It doesn't even take a few hours, like an hour to watch a video on how to self custody using a hardware signing device. So, and that is like, if I'm going to stick with the analogy here, that's giving you nuclear level protection, nuclear weapon level protection, uh, in the latter case of learning how to self custody your Bitcoin versus teaching you a gambling ritual, which is what technical analysis is. So just, it's your time. You do with it what you
And I'll
choose.
defend that. Technical analysis isn't completely worthless at all, guys. There are certainly things that you can gauge for entry points, exit points in the marketplace. There's certainly good stuff. It shouldn't be your whole analysis of everything, because that's what a lot of guys do. Well, the chart says this, I'm buying it. I don't care what it is. The chart's good. It's a component of research in finances, and I think we kind of downplay that a little bit here, because it certainly has a place, and it certainly is a timing mechanism to let you know that volume obviously is an important thing. Are people buying stuff? But I totally agree with you. Spend the time on learning how to manage your own assets. That is far more important. Once you have them, you might as well own them. It's just kind of a silly domestic terrorist thought that I have in my common sense head, that if I own something, I actually want to own it. That would be great. But I want to get into this Clarity Act, because that's a big conversation that's going on in DC right now. I've been to DC. I've met some people who are in this Clarity Act conversation. I can tell you firsthand, you can believe me or not, like DC is a complete clown show. It is an absolute theater. The people who pretend to hate each other go to the same cocktail parties and laugh at you for believing them on a daily basis. This is something that has never been any different than it is today. This is how political classes have operated since pre the Roman Empire, and with the illusion of voting. You remember Rome had a Caesar and a Senate, so the Senate could make decisions, but the Caesar ultimately led the nation, or led the empire. Who wants to go into this? Lauren, have you dug into this a little bit on the Clarity Act? I know that there's back and forth about it, but I want to get your
Yeah, it did a while back, but
please walk us through it.
no. I'm foggy on it. I really wanted to have this conversation, but it's finally coming to air here. So I'm actually working out, so
He's looking for
I'm
his
out of
sippy
breath.
cup right
So
now, Eric. He's not really cogent on the Clarity Act.
Well, all right. Didn't want to interrupt your lift there, buddy. Go ahead. I hope you enjoy that. Keep sweating.
now I'm old. I'm riding a stair climber, buddy.
You're riding it, or you're actually walking on it?
Riding it hard.
Tomer, have you kept up with this? Because first of all, I know that there's a debate that I saw this morning of, if you don't want regulation, just go to a place like El Salvador, which, by the way, has regulation. But this Clarity Act has very little to do with Bitcoin, to be honest with you. From everything that I've read, it has more it's really a stable coin regulation act. You want to walk us through it?
That was going to be my question. Well, I'm not an expert on it. I've heard a lot of people talking about it, but it sounds like there have been a lot of last minute changes to it that take certain teeth out of it and bring other limitations into it. So at its final status, I don't actually know what's in it and what isn't, but it is in essence a bill that will allow American entities to issue stable coins. I personally don't see what use Americans have for like the whole point of the whole killer app of the stable coin was that non-Americans who wanted the American dollar because it was so much better than their fiat currencies and so much more reliable could get access to US dollars in countries where the banks didn't carry US dollars and where many people were debanked.
Oh, did you guys lose Tomer, or was that just me?
No, we lost him.
All right, Thomas, are you familiar with this? Because my understanding is, and I saw Carlo down there. I asked him to come up. I know that he has studied this. Bob, I see you down there. I'm pretty sure you're probably familiar with this. I'm going to invite you up if you have any information.
I would say Carlo is probably the expert on this, but
He bounced.
what I would say from a business side, what this allows people to do, and again, I think there's a lot of friction here. So these are really just technical business possibilities. If regional banks can start issuing their own stablecoin and create merchant networks with their consumer customer base, they can start to create affinity programs locally and allow the merchants to avoid the 5 to 8% overhead of using the Visa MasterCard network for clearing card purchases. So now all of a sudden, now there's a lot of friction. Like you've got to figure out how to get the point of sale handled and educate and train people. But there's quite a bit of incentive if you could cut those fees in half or by even more than that. There's a lot of opportunity to create the merchant networks that you can recruit. You can deepen your relationship as a regional bank, and they can be your sales force de facto because they're going to push customers through incentives to say, hey, use this the XYZ community bank card, and we're going to give you preferred this, that, or the other thing, discounts on that, special happy hours if it's a restaurant, special discounts if it's a store. So I think there's an opportunity for small and regional banks to do some of that stuff and really go to battle with the expensive Visa MasterCard network. Um, there's, like I said, I think I'm talking to one regional bank about it. I would just say there's a lot of friction. I would give what I just articulated a theoretical possibility, but there's, unless you have a real visionary at the top, it's going to be very difficult to overcome the friction in the system. A lot of these banks are the regional banks are dealing with struggling balance sheets because of the commercial real estate is struggling in many areas, especially office space that's coming up for renewal.
Bob, you want to give us a rundown? I know you keep up with this stuff.
Yeah, I'll say I think Thomas nailed it. I think the big problem is that most of these banks do not have the development teams to actually move forward on any of this. They rely heavily upon third parties for all of their banking infrastructure. So that's everything from, their customer databases and their CRMs to, just about anything is all stuff that they haven't grown in house. And so until the providers or until they're begging for it, they're probably not going to get it. So it's going to be the big guys. It's going to be the Chases, the Wells Fargo, all those guys, and that's actually why I see personally, and I think Carlo would agree. We've talked about this, but it's an eventuality where you basically just have 5 to 10 major financial institutions in the United States, just like Canada. This is the big consolidation that'll happen.
Bob, when I talk about friction of adopting this, when you go to, I've worked at all the big banks. The friction there is tremendous, right? In order for them to implement a new system that was an affinity card that bypassed the Visa MasterCard network and created their own, just the amount of committees and change is very difficult. So this is the actual pitch that I would be making to the regional banks. And you have to do this probably at the board level or minimally the CEO level. The option is for them, and again, you're right that they don't do a lot of the stuff themselves. They rely on third parties. But if and it really depends on what their future plans are. If their plan is to be acquired, which is a lot of regional banks, that's probably what their future is to get acquired. They become the test bed for a Citigroup or a Wells Fargo or Chase or JP Morgan. So that's the pitch, right? And so, this one particular bank I'm talking to is their stock's done very well. And I'm like, look, you want a 30 or 40% pop on the stock price, start implementing some of these programs, get some things in place. You don't even really have to execute. You have to have a demonstration of a viable pilot, and you will be taken out by one of the players who want to buy your early stuff and methods and procedures, all that kind of stuff. So I do think it's possible. I will categorize this as a 1 in 3 chance of happening. I just think it's so hard to implement this change because there's conflicts of interest everywhere. If it's the higher up in the food stack you go in the banking system, the more they're conflicted not to screw around with the Visa Mastercard relationship. Uh, and when you go down the stacks, let's say the small regional banks, they don't want to get jammed up. So you've got to work through all those things. But I do think there's a lot of opportunity. I think Visa Mastercard taken what amounts to about 7 or 8%. Now, Gary Cardone, I see him. I don't know if he's on the stage. I think he is, but he knows a little bit more about this. I've heard him talk about it. Uh, I think the future is to cut that overhead in half for merchants. Uh, and if we can do that through the technology, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, this is first of all, the Clarity Act is providing very little clarity. It's been rewritten 4 times from what I can see. There's been 4 different drafts that have been put out there. This is good information. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin. I'm sad he just popped up here. I saw Yellow popped up here, and his most recent video of Alex Jones calling a bunch of influencers retards might be the funniest thing I've seen all week. If you guys haven't seen it, you certainly should. It's hilarious. But it is... the Clarity Act has nothing to do with Bitcoin, and I keep hearing Bitcoiners talk about it. This has absolutely 100% to do with stable coins, payment systems, the banks themselves, and tokenized assets. In those environments, it's going to be fiat repeat. So what you guys just described, which is consolidation of banks, is something that I was doing podcasts about 3 years ago, of like the dangers of what happens with the regional banks losing power or small banks being consolidated. The American model has been monopoly by acquisition. That is what has happened over the last 75 years, is that one company gets tremendous backing, a ton of money. They bring in a bunch of investors. They acquire a bunch of others. This is just business 101. But we have really gotten into the monopolistic phase, especially in technology, and banking is the next logical sector to nationalize in a quasi-government manner. Where, Bob, you were mentioning this, that eventually there will just be these 10 or 12 banks. Well, that's not a good signal for an economy. That is centralized power and force economically in a country, and that is always going to be a threat to democracy.
Eric, think of the Clarity Act as it's a stablecoin act, right? So it's putting stablecoins out on the market now. While it's not Bitcoin related, it could be in some of the manifestations, but equally, it could also be at the nose in the camel's tent on CBDC, which is a real problem. I don't know how it's going to play out.
But you don't need it. First of all, the CBDC thing, there is nothing stopping a CBDC. I know that there are politicians who've said it, but the actual paperwork itself, there's still an open door to that. And the threat of a CBDC is not that a central bank issues it. It's that an authoritarian power above you controls the money. And whether it's a CBDC or a stable coin, they're both programmable. And they don't have to disclose to us how the programming works or what the programming parameters are. So they're still a threat no matter what label you give them when they come from above. Doesn't mean they'll I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm just saying that doorway is open. Just like the most recent video of like, hey, if your dog is lost on Ring, you just upload a picture of your dog's face, and every camera in the neighborhood will search for your dog. These are open doors that literally need to be paid attention to. And I think stablecoin and CBDC have the same end goal for a totalitarian. One may have some debt backing and make it more valuable, but at the end, they're the same. Does that make sense to you, Thomas?
It does. I would just say, look, the technology is agnostic at some level. You have a programmable stablecoin that can be controlled by an authoritarian state in the form of a CBDC, but it could also be used to create affinity networks and things that are beneficial to those affinity networks. So, frequent flyer miles would be a very poor metaphor of a token or an asset that is for use within a network. It lacks general fungibility, but very valuable in network use. So you can see how it plays out. When these bills go through Congress, the people writing them are not people I consider friends, and so I start off skeptical about what's going to come out. Now, hopefully, we have some providence here, and we get some positivity coming out of here that leads to an ecosystem that it allows Bitcoin to be more accepted within our culture and within our financial transactions, because I think that ultimately gets to the future. I do think that today that Bitcoin dominates, or its next step up will be in the store of value vector. But long term, I think we need to get back to the roots of Bitcoin being a peer-to-peer transaction token. But we need some things to happen first. One is adoption. We saw some of the merchants being picked up. It was accelerating rapidly in the late 25 and 26. We need more and more of that. But we also need some legislation that allows for the use of it not to be treated as a capital gains transaction every time you do it. So you get we eliminate that friction, and I just think you see Bitcoin starting to be adopted. And look, some of the infrastructure is going to come through these bills. It's just I'm just be very concerned about it going the wrong way.
And Gary, I know you have a different point of view on the short-term capital gains tax on Bitcoin. You want to walk us through that and the merchant piece that Thomas was talking about? How are you this morning, by the way, Gary?
Good, guys. Good. Just coming back from an appointment. So I don't know credit card thing. Look, there's so much room to bypass the card schemes. It's crazy. Um, that should be an easy thing for digital assets to do if we can get our act together. I don't know that I can add much more value though, buddy. I think Thomas covered it very well, and I think it's really interesting to note that Thomas and I are now the new Doomer Bears. We don't fit in any coin group right now because we are realistic. I'm so sorry.
Shame on you guys for being realistic and not eternally optimistic all the time. It's shame on you both. Shame, shame, shame.
You know, Eric, hope has always been something I've enjoyed fondling, but it's never really made me much money.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised, I came out of college onto Wall Street, and I was taught that hope stands for help other people eat. That's what I was taught. Now, I have hope in life, but when it comes to hope in the financial system that we're seeing right now, I don't have it either. So, I never fit into any Bitcoin group. So, congratulations, guys! You are part of the divergence from the movie Divergent in Bitcoin. You are now living with me on the railway station outside of town.
In my consulting world, the phrase "hope is not a strategy" applies. People have probably heard that statement before. Um, I still have the hope, but I don't think it is a strategy. Again, if you are entering into the market and where Bitcoin is on sale, as long as I would just remind people that you need to have a long time preference. If you're playing with money that you need in September or January of next year, I would just do a little bit more homework and maybe consider your investment time horizons a little bit. So I have people ask me all the time, should I buy Bitcoin? What happened? It's crashing its way down. If that's the sum total of their knowledge of it, I say it's probably. I almost always start with you shouldn't buy it, and they're like, "What? What? I thought you were an advocate." I say, "I'm not saying I'm not going to buy it. I'm saying you shouldn't buy it." And they're like, "Why? Why?" And they go through the whole thing about, well, if you're not prepared to understand it, you're not likely to be able to hold it through the storms that are going to come. The storm that we're in right now we'll have other storms. This won't be the only one. So if you can't get through one storm, you're not going to get through three or four. And look, Bitcoin's going to come under attack. It is at some level it's politically destabilizing to the financial system globally. But at some level it's relentless. It can be kicked down, but I don't think it's going to get knocked down and knocked out. There's too much money behind it at this point, so now it's just a question of the speed of adoption.
Well, I think that assessing reality is what gives me hope. Just to kind of rewind to that. So I want to know all the numbers. I want to know everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, because that helps me. That gives me a parameter to work within so that I can make better decisions for my own life. I think hope comes from assessing reality. And if you're seeing the tea leaves forming in a different way than what you anticipated yesterday, the hope I have is, oh, I see things are changing. I need to make changes as well. I think a lot of folks, and like everyone has the right to do whatever they want, but I think a lot of folks are like, I don't want to change my strategy. I just want to hear everything's okay, and I want to keep. I've been dealing with, G Money too. Been dealing with people like this for a long time. No, it'll fix itself. Just over time, it's just going to be fine. You can think that way. You can totally think that way. For me, I want to know give me every single point of information that could be detrimental to my thesis. And if you're giving me information that I can absorb and go, that's real, and I can see where that prime example would be, excitement over lower rates so that more people can buy more houses. That's exciting. That is a data point you could look at and hold on to and say, if they lower rates, mortgages will be, more abundant. People will have them and they'll be able to buy a house. That's one way to look at it. The way I look at it is, that's many, many, many more people that will be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in debt for the next 30 years, draining liquidity from the marketplace for good investments for a home. So I want to know that information so that I can readjust my own strategy, my own stance. And I don't think that's the term doomer is just so dumb. I really just completely disagree with it. I think it's more of a let me assess reality stance on things and make a better decision. Whether that's right or wrong in the end, you have to have the information to do it to be confident. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I don't mean to black pill people or, be a doomer. And that's not, people throw around that stuff. I think I agree with everything you guys are saying. Just be realistic. Money is a form of communication. And as the traditional system gets more into digital money, on newer rails, updated rails that aren't 50 years old like what they're using now, it just is right for that data that's out there to be used against our freedoms. And so if you look at it from that standpoint, again, not trying to blackpill people, but it's really like I've always lived off of Bitcoin adoption is going to occur where it solves a problem. So some of us see it as a store of value problem that it's solving, but I think as time goes on, we're going to see that it really is the freedom money that a lot of people talk about, because the existing system is going to move into this system of control, whether it's surveillance, or you're not getting your government bennies because you're not doing what the administration likes. And so all I'll say is, like, I think more pain has to come for people, for adoption to really ramp up and continue. I think obviously adoption is happening anyway, and we're all building and talking about this stuff. But I do think like the mass adoption where a lot of people come in is going to come from, unfortunately, out of necessity because of pain of the system. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. And really these banks, you got to think of them as ultimately they're data brokers, and the ones who do it well are going to be the ones who survive.
Yeah, has anyone else noticed that the pharmaceutical industry has completely infiltrated social media? Now everyone's taking pills. You're a blue pill, red pill, black pill, orange pill, white pill, gray pill, all the pills. You either take the whole pill cocktail and sort it out later, or don't take a pill. So totally up to you. All the name calling is just so silly and ridiculous. What do you think about that, Humble? Interesting. Very good insight, Humble. Thank
She's
you.
got the beach ball above her head most of the time.
Can
So
you repeat the
I
question? I'm
cannot.
in the
I
middle of
cannot. You're being
fixing.
passed in the
You
conversation.
can't. Oh, for crying out loud!
No. I'm just
there's a marble hanging by a string in there, just swinging back and
just the
forth.
ridiculousness that people have to identify as to
Oh dear.
which pill did you take? Are you a red pill? Are you an orange pill? Are you a white?
Oh
It's so
gosh, yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. I like the red orange pill. I like that. That makes sense to me.
Uh,
It's just the product of the internet, right? Like, we're all connected now, so everyone kind of finds their quote unquote tribe, and so we have to make fun of the other side by calling them whatever color pill, right? So yeah, it's
Yeah, they don't even know about pills over there, do they? I don't think they talk about pills as much as we do.
it's fascinating how people, a whole group of people who are disgusted by the pharmaceutical industry constantly use. You took that pill. You're a this pill, that pill person. It just makes me laugh. I don't know. We have to laugh in life, don't we, Terrence?
We absolutely do. That's why we're here.
Guys, I've got till 1 o'clock, so we got about 40 minutes here. Topics are pretty thin in Bitcoin right now, so we can take this conversation anywhere you like. We can continue to grind down on numbers. I think the most important number that came out in the last 6 weeks was the retail spending of the consumer. Consumer's dead. Consumer has no expendable cash. That's going to be regional and situational, of course, but I think that's a major concern for me with looking at economies, and I've got businesses and things like that. And you can see businesses all across the board that are not earning what they earned a year ago, despite the fact that we're hearing the exact opposite from pretty much everyone in positions of power, Wall Street down to the government. Other than that, what other numbers are kind of intriguing you guys in the market here if we're going to continue on that conversation? Because I think that there's a lot that needs to play out before. It's interesting that they're calling something that creates actual gray areas, which are called laws, which are gray areas that people exploit, called the Clarity Act. The Genius Act was, verbally saying no CBDCs, but leaving a backdoor available for that in the bill itself. I do see a lot of great things happening, guys, in the Bitcoin space. I actually don't mind the moronic FUD that's around the world today, because it's another reason that someone will go out, hear something, believe it, and then 6 months to a year from now will look at it on their own. Some will never look at it. But then they'll go, wow, that was ridiculous. Who told me that? There's just a lot of people that are destroying their credibility right now, and I have no problem with it. I think the FUD is great because I enjoy buying $60,000 Bitcoin any chance I can get. But it is a pretty thin market to discuss. We got Paul up here now as well. I kind of want to move on to more of the social issues that we're facing in America right now, and where we can turn from that.
Eric, did you talk about the 640,000 Bitcoin that were populated into South Korean exchange yet?
We did.
Did you see
We
that?
did lightly, but I definitely want you to go through that. And I will pinpoint this to you: is that Korea is a very big epicenter of wash trading and market manipulation. It has been for a long time. But Bob, walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think obviously any exchange has the potential for, we kind of beat the drum over and over again, and you guys probably covered this, so I apologize. I had a meeting, but yeah, just by somebody's data entry, they put in, and credited accounts with 640,000 Bitcoin, which, sure, if they have it, fine.
Hey, Bob, was it
Yeah.
640,000 Bitcoin or was it 2,000 Bitcoin?
No, it was what the loss was they were supposed to do 640,000 won, South Korean won, and they ended up crediting actually 640,000 Bitcoin. So the question is like, if you could just make a data entry like that, are those Bitcoins really there? Like if all those people had tried to withdraw that Bitcoin, then obviously they'd probably have a problem, right? Because you can't create Bitcoin out of thin air. So I guess I don't know. There's a lot of questions about this thing, but yeah, I mean the reward was 640,000 won, which was like equivalent to, I don't know, several $100s. But they ended up crediting 640,000 Bitcoin, and what people saw, customers saw, and were able to actually withdraw from the system was about 1,700, 1,800 Bitcoin. So that's what they're still like missing. And that's what they're trying to get back from people who immediately saw it, sold it, and then withdrew it to their bank accounts.
Yeah, so Bob, what I read, that's pretty close to what I read, was that yes, it was the 2,000 Bitcoin, because apparently that, or whatever it capped off at, was the most that they had. Meaning similar to what FTX was doing, what Sam Bankman-Fried was doing, was that they didn't really have all the Bitcoin that they were crediting to people. So in a sense, they sort of got caught red-handed, in addition to losing that Bitcoin, which I know they're trying to claw back right now. And I also suspect that intern's probably not going to be promoted today because it was done by an intern.
What was the original reward for? What were they rewarding people the currency for, Bob?
It looked like it was just a promo, that there were, I don't know, 60 some odd winners. And I don't know. I guess like the thing is like what you're seeing is like maybe a little bit of a sneak peek behind the curtain, which is that one, their controls are horrible. Two, they may just be showing people a number on a screen, which we know doesn't work with Bitcoin. And three, I think that despite all of this, that people were actually able to withdraw real Bitcoin. So like the question is where did that come from? Was it just their house account? Anyway, it's a glimpse behind maybe one bad exchange. And I wonder if more things will come of it because it does look like the regulator there is suing BitHum. So BitHum, you know, they're one of the largest exchanges in the East, and so I think that this story is bigger than maybe first glance, and I'm going to be curious to continue following it because I think there's just way more questions than answers just from what we're seeing.
It reminds me of when like you're at the airport and you're ready to get on your plane and they get on the speaker and they're like, "Hey, does anyone, anyone want $100 credit or whatever if you can delay your flight?" And it's because they're selling more seats than they actually have. And it's like the exchanges just feel like, I mean, it's no different. It's just really just fractional banking, but as Dark and many of us have always talked about, it's like you just can't do that with Bitcoin. The Bitcoin will always come home to roost and provide the truth. And so that's why we always say to get your Bitcoin off exchanges, because you just don't know. I mean, we're talking about Sam Bankman-Fried just a second ago. It's like I don't know who was here in that space at the time, but I was, and I was paying attention to every single thing. Like it was just fascinating to me, even though I didn't have anything on FTX. I didn't even really even know about FTX, but apparently he had less than one Bitcoin on his exchange, less than one. So, but he was selling and trading and people were storing, and it was just all a credit.
So he was just taking orders for Bitcoin. I'm trying to understand this while it's explained. So he had less than one Bitcoin, but people could go on FTX and they could buy 3 Bitcoin. So he was like, yeah, your account, I'm going to show you 3 Bitcoin. But knowing that, I don't, maybe Bob knows these numbers better than I do, is that most of the people who are buying on exchanges, if they're not removing it from the exchange within like 10 days or something like that, it's something like 80% of people leave it on the exchange. It's a tremendous amount. So the mere fact that there's so much Bitcoin left on exchanges, it allows them this open door to be able to do stuff like this. And I think that this Korean thing shouldn't be overlooked, Bob. I hope you keep us well apprised on this situation, because this is dangerous. That how many Bitcoin are being sold out there that don't actually exist, or that the people don't actually have possession of. I mean, that's an event to track, which is why I think re-education of where we are. Great, you're in Bitcoin. You went to Kraken or Backstreet Boys Coinbase and you decided like, hey, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. Remove it immediately. If everyone removed their Bitcoin from those exchanges, which are attempting to replace banks because they're holding assets for other people, issuing debt upon those assets, and rehypothecating, which is what this FTX was certainly doing, right? If you didn't have the Bitcoin, but people were buying it, then why are we shamed in the community for telling people to self-custody their own Bitcoin? This is a problem that just surfaced that I think is much bigger than people are giving it credit for, and it's easily solvable. No problem. You want to buy Bitcoin, you kind of have to use an exchange, right? Unless you have a contact who will exchange for cash, which many people do. So you have to use an exchange. It's an exchange. It's not a repository. If you use an exchange as a repository, you're going to end up like the metals market, which I don't think anyone can disagree is a bit of a mess. So if we continue to harp on the importance of watching a 1-hour BTC sessions video on how to use a cold wallet, go ahead and use Coinbase. Buy your Bitcoin. Just make sure in a couple of days you're putting it into cold storage. It's not hard to do. And then once it's in cold storage, if you have to sell it for emergency purposes or whatever, it's very easy to put back on the exchange and sell. It's really not all that difficult. People can burn, Terrence, we're old enough to remember the CD, right? Like if you met a girl, you burned her a CD of like 8 songs that she would like. If you can burn CDs, you can certainly self-custody Bitcoin. It's a little bit more difficult, but not that challenging. We got Prometheus up here. Love to have you up here and get some words from you. We got Hath and we got Paul up here as well. So go ahead, Prometheus.
Hey, Eric. Great to see you. Terrence, everyone here, Lauren, Gary.
Yeah, guys, look, this is a sweet buying opportunity. People have been complaining, oh, Bitcoin's too expensive. I can't afford it. I should have bought it earlier.
Wait,
Here
who's
you go.
complaining? Who's doing that?
Well, apparently, a lot of sad fools who are, I'm assuming should be happy and joyous that they can afford it now, and yet, there's people are just getting scared. But, I was listening to and Jensen Wong's comments whilst, on CNBC this morning, and I was just thinking about the hundreds of billions of dollars that are being poured into data centers, artificial intelligence development. And at the same time, where is the consideration for security of capital? I'll just give an example. It probably doesn't lend itself to a lot of the developed world, but this is a true story from the nation of Bangladesh, where I have family and friends, some of whom are in the government and have worked at the Bangladesh Bank. So we had a hacker. They say it was North Korea, but we'll see who it truly was. But apparently, they were able to put in some sort of a listening device or something of that nature. They got the passwords, and they were able to siphon over $1 billion of, Bengali capital off to, offshore accounts. And they were caught at the last second by the system, but they'd lost already 1 billion before the rest could be taken. They were obviously trying to take a lot more than that. One of the reasons why I advise people to keep their capital in Bitcoin is because it is one of the most secure systems in the world. Forget price action just for a second. Oh, is it going up? Just forget all that for a second. Will it be taken down? We've seen a lot of these so-called super secure blockchain, crypto systems, unfortunately, not live up to that name. This system, from the very beginning, to this day at least, to our best knowledge, has stood the test of time, and because of the continuous additional growth of, these GPUs and what else to the hash rate, it makes it extremely difficult, not impossible, okay, but extremely difficult to take this network down, right? And so we're coming into chaotic time, folks. You hear it from Eric, you hear it from Terrence, Gary, we all harp on about it. But I'm certain there's hundreds of people here. Please retweet the room, first of all. And if you have friends and family who don't know this stuff, please get them into these spaces and go ahead, come up, ask us questions. This is a very open-minded panel. No one's gonna chisel you down for asking a reasonable question about this system. Because if you don't buy it this now, I guarantee you 12, 18 months from that, when the economy is in the gutter for whatever reason, it's going to go there. Okay. TradFi is collapsing. We know it's going to happen. It's when, it's not if. All right. So when that happens, what are you going to say? Oh, we heard you should have bought Bitcoin from Gary and Eric and Terrence, but we just sat there and did, screw all. Right. So anyway, I'll land my soapbox there, and always a pleasure to be here, gentlemen.
Always, buddy. And I love when you make voices. It always makes me laugh. Always does. Hath, Paul, either one of you guys, welcome up. I like both of you guys. Love to hear from you.
What's up, guys? Good to see your faces today. I think it was Darkside that said Bitcoin in self custody is a modern day bank run. The reality is, there's so many people that are afraid, but what they should be afraid of is Bitcoin sitting on an exchange at Coinbase while they're in the back room dancing, and playing around. I mean, this is real money. It is kind of shocking. I mean, I understand because it is scary when you start thinking about it, but once you do it, you realize actually it's technology. I can do this, and I can protect my wealth going forward. I mean, it kind of blows my mind that people would take thousands and thousands of dollars and just put it in the hands of someone else. I mean, Bitcoin is not their bank, it's your bank. You get to hold it. You get to take responsibility for it. All I'm trying to think at this beautiful price is how to buy more and thinking of creative ways. So that's what I've got to say. I want to find out creative ways to buy more Bitcoin, uh, because we may never see this price again,
And we may, right? We may or we may
and we
not.
could.
We don't know.
Yeah,
We don't know.
we don't know. We don't know.
I actually see a very choppy market for the next, God knows how long, 3-4 months. I really do. Does that mean I'll be right? I don't know. That's just my opinion. But I appreciate that, Paul. I appreciate that. Half, what's going
Yeah,
on?
I appreciate all you guys.
Always, brother. God bless you.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me up. Thanks for doing the space. You mentioned a few minutes ago how they're, to feel free to talk about other things besides Bitcoin movements. And one of the things I've noticed, and it's all kind of tied together. If I said, I think they might be getting rid of the filibuster, it would, it would, it wouldn't explain how I got there, because I would think that was something that would never happen. But I also thought we wouldn't invade Iraq in 2003. So I'm probably not the best judge of what's going to happen. But I opened up my mind to the possibility that they did get rid of the filibuster. And if they did, and I were them, or even a mid, you would want to have meetings ahead of time so you could come out like a fire hose as soon as that's done, and you could just pass, sign, done, pass, sign, done, and do like a Karl Rove type, be history's actor while everybody else is trying to figure out what you did. And if they did get rid of the filibuster, and if they did kind of blitzkrieg changes, is that bullish? I mean, I kind of felt like it is, but more importantly, why would we be so weak to let this happen? And I think the reason is that a lot of people are feeling despondent that the voting is not proper, and it really just kind of breaks their heart. And so I just want to ask people, if you vote in a shareholder vote, do you? I mean, doesn't it have to have controls, right, and chain of custody and so forth? Is voting in a shareholder vote more secure than voting
In a presidential election, yeah, absolutely it is. Yes.
Okay, so I get that there's more juicy, divisive stuff people could be talking about, but if people had empathy and they knew that someone else's heart was being broken by the fact that they're willing to pay taxes, they're willing to work 5+ months out of the year for the public, right? But they like the idea of being able to tell themselves that maybe they could change things through democracy and voting and representation, etc. So if you had empathy, you'd think, well, shoot, the least we can do is raise the bar with technology to have some controls. And I don't even know how you broach that subject. But in any case, maybe that's not. Maybe that's just the internal struggle. But if that could be the spark, we got to do it. We got to have it. We can't do anything unless there's a crisis. Well, the crisis is that people don't believe in voting anymore unless we pass the such and such act, and we can't pass the such and such act unless we blow the filibuster. And so now that we've blown the filibuster, we can, Milton Friedman remake whatever we want, until they push back. So you just come in like a fire hose. Anyway, that was my thought. I didn't know if anybody else had considered that, or if they could talk me off the ledge that they're not going to get rid of the filibuster, or maybe they just plan on losing in the midterms, and then that'll be the crisis. I don't know. Thanks.
Yeah, no, half. Interesting topic, because if you remember 2.5 years ago, the Democrats wanted to get rid of the filibuster, and everyone's like, we can't do that. It's a necessary part of the constitutional process, which it's not. It was added later. But now the Republicans want to get rid of the filibuster, and the same crowd that didn't want to get rid of the filibuster now does. This is the Hegelian dialectic. It is playing out all over the place. And one of the areas that this is just solely my opinion, take it for what it's worth. My opinions have been pretty good, not 100% accurate, but I think that the dialectic that's playing out right now has little to do with the filibuster and more to do with the complete flaws in a human-run government. So you will see this debate happen for a very long time. It'll go back and forth. It'll have logic and emotion on both sides for a long time. And a unified solution would be that we need to go to an AI governance, which has been the goal since the 40s. Like literally, this has been written about since the early 1930s and really, really published in the 40s. So the goal has been there. So one theory that I find interesting, it's not mine, but one that I find interesting is that you could see a flip of the script from the Democrats who go completely anti-Israel. Going into talking about midterms is lame anyway, by the way, guys, but I'll waste a few minutes doing it because voting doesn't matter, and I don't think it's going to. But that they would flip totally anti-Israel, gain the youthful vote in droves to go Democrat, and then start the impeachment process, pure chaos in the government for the next 2 or 3 years, where eventually the next administration comes in and goes, see, the problem here is that we have all these corruptible humans who do corrupt things, and we need to have an uncorruptible AI system that's being run on these data centers that we spent $1 trillion building for you for your own safety, and then a push towards the technocratic government. And whether that happens in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, or 20 years, it's certainly going to happen at some point in history. And I think that part of that dialectic that's playing out right now has to do with the Epstein case, which to date no one's been arrested for. A lot of people have actually stepped down from their jobs. There's certainly momentum. The world is starting to understand that these pedophiles do run our country, which people laughed at, like guys like me and G Money for saying this for years. It's absolutely true. This is another piece that you can look at and say the people are waking up. Well, the people have woke up like 40 times throughout history. We've ended up in the same spot. Maybe this time's different. Maybe it's not. However, it will certainly be a push towards more technocracy. I put this out yesterday. Some people understood what I was saying. Some people don't. But I think that the Epstein case by itself, because everything is digitally recorded, emails, videos, many of which are real, some of which are fake, by the way, random tips to the FBI, spreadsheets typed out by an FBI agent that people are taking as gospel. There's a lot of stuff in there that requires discernment. It is certainly not an officially, due diligence run FBI file that you're getting. It's not polished at all. It's literally just a bunch of stuff being thrown at the public, and very little is being done. Howard Lutnick is on stand, or was on stand this morning, who people said, why do you like Howard Lutnick? I don't know, because he didn't show up for work for the first time in 20 years on 9/11, lived next to Epstein, and then gave you some sob story about how he met Epstein once and he was like a weird guy with a massage table, never talked to him again. Completely unrealistic. I don't even like my next door neighbor to the right of me, and I talk to him like 7 or 8 times a year. So that's not even a possibility. But the dialectic will change. And just keep this on your radar, because your personal freedoms and sovereignty are under attack, which is why Bitcoin is under attack. 100%. This is absolutely Bitcoin adjacent, if not directly a viable case for Bitcoin, is that the Epstein files will be used to implement full surveillance and authorization from the public about pre-crime. And people have talked to me about pre-crime, and the retort I get, which is understandable. I'm not the guy who's like, what are you, an idiot? It's just the reasonable questions. The statement would be, if we had pre-crime measures in place, then little kids would not be molested. And that's true. That may be, certainly it's going to happen anyway, but that certainly may be true. However, that is like 0.004% of the global population. So the rest of us fall under tyranny for people who commit crimes. That is what pre-crime would be. So in order for pre-crime to be effective, if you guys want to watch a show of how they sold this bill of goods to you, it's a show called Person of Interest. I think it was on CBS or something for years. It was actually a great show, where one guy was a rogue agent who created this AI system where it could take facial recognition, build a dossier on people, and then use an algorithm to determine a crime that they were going to commit. It was like Minority Report. Except in Minority Report, that's actually the real game, where the wrong guy got accused, and in the end they were like, hey, you could have committed this crime. That's why you're a criminal, because you didn't commit it, but you could have. And this Person of Interest, the guy was always saving people. It was always, we saved this innocent person from being killed by this bad person. Well, that's certainly true. The flip side of it will be, what you don't want full surveillance and pre-crime. What are you, a pedophile? Like, really think about this few years down the road, after a year or 2 years of Epstein file conversations that are coming out, which are all worthy conversations. We absolutely should be exposing this darkness and evil. But at some point, the evil rulers of the world, who use the Hegelian dialectic to draw you from one side to the other so you end up right where they want you, they are going to say, well, we certainly can't have a government because they're corrupt. We're going to have to go to AI. We certainly have to have AI in place to protect the children. And if you don't agree with that, then you must be a pedophile. Like, that is a perfect Hegelian dialectic set in place. And they started leaking this at the Super Bowl with that Ring camera ad. Oh, you lost 10 million dogs go missing every year, and they're posting, pictures of wanted lost dog, and the dog will pull on your heartstrings. In fact, they know how to use this stuff. Like, the pet industry is huge. And if you look at the pet industry and you look at food, like the other day, like I love dry roast peanuts. So I dropped one on the ground. My dog, I have a Rottweiler, came by and just literally lopped it up and ate the dry roast peanut. So I went to AI and I'm like, will a dry roast peanut actually injure a dog? Should I be worried about this? And it said, as long as it's in a small enough quantity, because it's got preservatives on there that are bad for a dog's ecosystem. Well, people would read that and say, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about it. I read that and I said, well, then why the hell am I eating them? Right? So people feed their dogs better food than they eat on their own, and they know that. So they make this ring commercial where a little kid loses his dog. They take a picture of the dog's face, they upload it into the Ring system, and then all the Ring cameras in the local area are now activated to track and trace this dog's face. And they find the dog, and the kid is happy, and everyone's happy because they found the dog. What happens if a new administration comes in, or even, there's been stuff put out that they're already looking for dissenters now to create a new list. What happens if some radical Mamdani guy comes into office and you say something against Islam, or you say something against the US government? What is to prohibit them from actually using the same facial recognition on those cameras to find you? What prohibits them from the same activities that are designed to eliminate crime to steal your freedoms? This is the delicate balance point that humanity is in right now. And the reality is, decentralization is the only solution to this problem, which is why Bitcoin is under attack at this exact period in time. Strictly my opinion. It could be complete coincidence for all I know. But my opinion would be very simply that Bitcoin is under attack. They're linking Epstein to Bitcoin, which obviously Epstein tried to corrupt developers. Obviously, they're human beings. And that's what he did for a living, was corrupt human beings. He was a human virus. So of course he tried to do that. I believe that the effects of his, and his 525 grand, this is nothing for a guy like Epstein or developers. So the end result, to me anyway, was the block size wars, which the block size war we won. So they attempted a coup, and the actual infrastructure of Bitcoin remained. So there's the short and skinny of Bitcoin and his Epstein's infiltration into Bitcoin. Now the ironic thing is, as you're seeing an advertisement where all video cameras in your local neighborhood could be used to find your dog or you, because there's no difference in facial recognition, and you're seeing a not even a slow creep, a fast move towards data centers and AI and technocracy. They've already announced a technocracy in Gaza. Board of Peace has nothing to do with Gaza. Read the documents. It's basically just United Nations Part 2. And that's how fourth turnings work, by the way, that you lose trust in the institutions, so they fire 80% of the staff, bring the 20% who know how to do it, rename it, and restaff it with new people who do the same things. That's how fourth turnings work from an institutional basis. And if we look at the stuff that's happening around us right now people are hating the one thing that will set them free, which is the ultimate dialectic. The ultimate dialectic for you would be, eventually they'll have you hating gold, right? So there's already been a bunch of gold. These criminals were caught with gold. Here in Texas, there was a guy who got caught in a car with like 30 ounces of gold. He was arrested. They made a big deal. If you're carrying gold, you must be a criminal. They don't know if he was driving to a place to sell the gold or if he just bought it, with his own cash. But they demonized the guy. So they're demonizing the assets that'll actually set you free from a system that's obviously becoming more surveillable and more tyrannical. And if we're not looking at these things from zoom out perspective and go, what is the timing of this information? How does it correlate with this other information? What are the realities involved in the situation? Because yes, it's exciting to see corruption be exposed. And guys like me have been on this for years and years and years. And it's great to see people, say you're not crazy. That I don't care about that if you think I'm crazy or not. Because the reality is that hype is overwhelming the fact that the actual surveillance state is being embedded right underneath your feet. And no one seems to be talking about it. Every 3 or 4 months, there's a new distraction from it. And the distractions are worthy, by the way. I'm not saying they're worthless. But that's this half. Is that a long answer actually help you understand where I'm thinking? Because I don't think that, midterms don't matter to me. I'm probably never going to vote again. Even if they change the way that voting is done right now, you could ID the world to all extents of the world, but does it matter in the end if the people you vote? Because I've seen them in my life. I've been in politics. I've met politicians who are like the best candidate I could possibly ever imagine. had dinner with them, coffee with them, great people, stood by their guns. Then they go to Washington, D.C., where the real problem is. It's not at the voting poll, it's in Washington, D.C. And when they go to D.C., I don't hear from them for a year, and they come back a completely different person. So until you fix that problem there, whoever you put in there is going to be consumed by that swamp. Does that really long answer help you out?
I mean, I appreciate your answer and I agree with you, but as it pertains to what I'm talking about, not exactly, because I'm not saying that the midterms matter, and I'm not saying that voting matters. I'm saying that the midterms is a backdrop against which a crisis story could be used to rationalize passing some act,
Oh,
which
1,000%.
which
It's
is the
dangerous.
story, right? And so, I yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that these people, we should go up to them and say, hey, dude, don't be despondent about how you thought you had this social contract and you've been getting kicked in the balls and keeping your mouth shut your whole life. And, because you thought in exchange you were going to have this kind of, whatever you want to say, access, democratized representation, whatever you want to call it, justice, um, public goods. And it turns out it's all corrupted. I mean, we can't just say, "Hey, dude, get over it. It's all fake." We have to recognize, "Hey, dude, you're despondent. That doesn't feel good. I'm sorry that you feel that way." You know what I'm saying? It's like you have to kind of like recognize that they're not looking for a solution. They're like feeling hollow and like, what the fuck's going on? Pardon my language. And so that just, maybe they're at a low frequency or something that the programming is trying to put them so it can then do its next, crisis and normalization. But anyway, I just thought that could pertain to markets and or Bitcoin, because it would be like sweeping legislation changes, like 20 a week or 50 in 10 days or something. And or just a couple that are really big, and people who thought they weren't going to pass would be right, except for this would be some extenuating circumstances that grease the tracks, and then boom, all of a sudden, you know things that we thought may not happen until later are now happening sooner, because they want people to see some benefit from it before we all celebrate 4th of July on the 250th anniversary, because that's a big part of the story.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, the bottom line is 2026 will be known as the year of the slippery slope. That's what this entire year will be known as, at least the first half of it. And it's a slippery slope to get rid of legislation that's been around. I don't know, the filibuster's been around for like 80 years. Is it an integral part? I mean, should the powers and parties in power have more ability to make changes? Certainly. But when you have tribalism that's being put in place, that tribalism where I don't want your guys to get rid of the filibuster. I want my guys to get rid of the filibuster. You're ostracizing half of the nation from a voting perspective. And from the other perspective is, if you really look at history, with the exception of a few decades of what appeared to be pure democracy, the world is really two choices of government: communism or fascism. Those are the two choices of government you actually have. And they're two wings of the same bird at the end of the day, if you really break down the history. So, I personally think anyone eliminating the filibuster, you have to look at it from the perspective of what happens when someone else is in power. Maybe the guys who want to eliminate it now will do the right thing and make things great. But if it doesn't exist, won't the next party in power just completely run over them again? That's one of the issues with
happened
this.
with Harry Reid pulling tricks that Mitch McConnell then did the Uno reverse card on him.
Right.
And so, I mean, some people are going to remember that. I just have a quick story. So back a long time ago, they put in these camera lights at the intersection, so they give you a ticket for running a red light. And I'd done some investigation
Which
into
is
them. I'm not,
treason, by the way, charging your people more money without actual due process. Go ahead.
yes, I'm not going through all the details, but I'd done some research on it. And this is why it's important to know when you've done some research or not when they come at you with these tactics. So I wanted to make a complaint when our alderperson had come to the neighborhood meeting and they were discussing this stuff. And I said, hey, I asked my question, and he didn't want to talk about the substance, so he wanted to shut me down. He said, hey, a little girl could get run over at this stoplight, or maybe last week a girl had to dive, or 2 years ago or whatever. He's like, are you saying that you want little girls to be less safe when they're crossing the intersection, as if he just like he was past the sale, right? Obviously, this surveillance scheme was and penalty scheme was going to save the girl, and so everyone in the neighborhood meeting looked at me like I was just a complete heel, and I said, brother, you shortened the duration of the yellow below like the state Department of Transportation engineers minimum range, right? So how is that making the girl safer, right? And everyone turned
Yeah,
in the
because she can
meeting.
get T-boned by somebody, at the intersection. It's a double-edged sword.
And so, yeah, so the people flipped and they didn't think I was a bad guy anymore. They looked back to the alderman like, wait a second, you need to talk substance with this person, and he couldn't. Anyway, and that led to a bunch of other funny stories that is too long for right now. But I get they use these kind of tactics to say, what do you are? You got something to hide? Is that why you don't want your neighbors to have ring cameras? It's not about that, right? But it's good to know when they've pulled that card on you. And lastly, I just want to say that we all know the fear and greed index. I'm making an index now called "You're not going to attack the Amish, right?" AI. And the whole time the needle was like, "Of course I'm not going to. Why would you even ask me that?" And now, because of what you're saying, with the total full spectrum dominance surveillance, the needle's starting to perk up. Like, wait a second, is the AI going to at least tell us that they're going to attack the Amish before they attack the Amish? Because like they're probably not going to have ring cameras. So
That's a good. I was going to make that same point. I was like, they'll never know.
right, but they're not gonna see it coming, man. They didn't even know they were in a fence. But hopefully that needle will go back to zero. But we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and it just ties right back into Bitcoin because the Bitcoin conversation is, they're using Bitcoin for money laundering, and it's uncensorable, and you can't confiscate it. These are criminals using it. And the more I think about it, like I did a quick AI research, and I'm like, what is money? What is money? What are the bad effects of money laundering, right? And the top ones were like, it undermines the integrity of the financial system. Well, our financial system has no integrity, so that kind of crossed off. A loss of tax revenue. Oh, well, now I understand why they really start to hate Bitcoin. It distorts the economy, like all these other crazy things on there where I'm like, people are actually choosing because of some guy who paid MIT, who paid some other guys to write code, one of which is a psychopath. Brian Bishop's absolute psychopath. That guy should not be allowed in Bitcoin, from the other things that I've read in the emails. But when you look at it from that perspective, people have been trained to think and to think the way the establishment wants them to, instead of thinking for themselves and saying, wait a minute, I want unconfiscatable money that can't be censored. I want to make transactions without somebody interfering with it. The financial system has no integrity for me. It has tremendous integrity for the top 1% who thrive off of it. And perhaps maybe we're overtaxed, and this is a pathway to keep us from being taxed. It's kind of astounding. Like your example of that meeting is it's a perfect scenario. Well, you don't want little girls to die. No, I also don't want T-bone accidents from shortened yellow lights, and I certainly don't want. I'm assuming you're probably in Florida because that's where I first saw that story, where a congressman came out and said, "We've done the most innovative new tax revenue strategy for the state. We've shortened yellow lights and put in cameras to take pictures and mail people, so cops don't even need to be involved. We can just mail people fines for running a red light on a camera," which many of them are, at that time specifically, were very faulty. So you were getting red light tickets when you weren't running a red light. That is treason. That is literally treason against the people. Has nothing to do with saving little children. That's not the initiative. That's not why they wrote it. They wrote it for the revenue, or they wrote it for the control. And that's just a reality of politics. So, I mean, that's just kind of where we are. So I think the filibuster discussion is one I don't really care to have, because the concept is simple. It's here. We use it. It's part of the process. If you remove it for one party, it's removed for both. So if your lunatic is the one that you want to make changes, just understand that eventually the other lunatic will have a full reign of control as well. And we don't think that way in America. We just think in the moment, in the now. We have these. We certainly have problems that need to be fixed right now and in the moment, but they're so plentiful that I don't know that legislation changes that. I mean, we need like a full change of people's hearts and society, and a full understanding of what reality truly is, because that's probably the most debatable thing on earth right now, is what is reality. But Prometheus, we're going to go to you, and then we're going to close this thing out here today with some final sign-offs.
I appreciate that. And Dave also has his hand up, so I don't know if we could give him a couple
Was Dave up
minutes as
here?
well. But very quick. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
see
go ahead,
Dave.
Dave. I don't see him up here. I see him as a listener. I'll invite him to
Yeah,
speak.
Dave is up here, but he's not coming off mic for some reason.
Oh.
Might be that new account.
Yeah,
Dave has
well,
a new account. If you guys don't know, Dave has a new account. His other account was hacked, and Twitter isn't giving it back to him. So Dave W is Dave Weisenberg.
oh,
Oh, he
nasty.
just dropped.
Nasty.
He just dropped.
All right, until he comes back, I'll gladly just kind of riff a little bit. I was making notes, Eric, the entire time you were speaking in that long answer, which I really appreciated. By the way, thank you for bringing up the. You went off mic. What
I
did
was
you
just
want
going
to
to
say?
say sorry about that. I didn't mean that long. My
Well, he's
bad.
also going to say before you riff too long, he's got to jump here in about a minute.
Oh, okay, Dave, please go ahead.
No.
After you
Dave's
get
not
that.
here. We're just saying before you riff for 9 minutes.
Oh, no, I'm not going to do 9. I'm going to do 2. Give me 2 minutes, all right? So just very quickly, I wanted to say that this surveillance state and control state, total control state that this parasitic elite want to develop, the only way we counter it is, number 1, open dialogue. Number 2, collaborative effort towards building the new. We don't fight the establishment head on, as Buckminster Fuller noticed. You make a new model that makes the old model redundant, hence Bitcoin with TradFi. Anyway, we've touched on a lot of topics here. I know we're going to close out the space. First of all, thank you, Terrence, Eric, Lauren, all the speakers who've come up here. It's always a pleasure to listen from you guys. We have a short window, I would say, between now and, again, this is just my perspective here, not financial advice or anything, but just my thoughts. Between now and, I would say, 12 to 18 months, perhaps less than that, when I see this war situation escalating to an acute stage in some areas, and you will see destabilization in certain supply lines, there's going to be all kinds of things that are going to be a little bit more chaotic, not quite business as normal. Now, those are times of both opportunity and chaos. Okay, so I don't want people here walking, oh, it's going to be doing. No. Most millionaires are made in times when the economy is not booming. All right. And I expect everybody here to be a millionaire with us. All right. If not more. All right. So, anyway, and Bitcoin's the way to do it. It's a very, please self-custody. You're hearing stories of, what happens when some of these institutions hypothecate, and not all of them do. Some of them can be trusted. I've never had any issues with Binance, for example, but again, that's colloquial evidence here, and also Kraken and a few others. But you make your decisions at the end of the day. I'll wrap it there for now, and just big thank you all around.
Prometheus, if you start out as a billionaire and you buy XRP, you can become a millionaire.
Well, it depends on the time horizon, but all right.
Are we going around the horn, Lauren, or are you still riding the little pony?
The pony bucked me off. Let's do the horn. Who's up here? Paul?
Hey guys,
Paul's up here.
what's happening? I appreciate you guys. I love spending time with y'all every day. And, I'll say this: be responsible with your Bitcoin, self custody. But the other thing is, don't over leverage yourself. It's exciting when you see times where you can run with leverage and get more Bitcoin, but you can get wrecked. And it makes me sad that billionaires, XRP holders that are billionaires become millionaires. It makes me sad. I've got some friends that still, I haven't talked to them recently, uh, but I can't get them to see, XRP and Bitcoin are different. But I'll just end with that. Be responsible. Because when I love to hear Prometheus say that, he wants us all to be millionaires. And not just because we want to hold wealth, but because we can do great things um, if we can get that money in our hand. Real money, Bitcoin. Hey, bless you guys. Love you all.
I don't think Paul's from New York City. What do you think, Lauren?
It's from the Bronx.
No, baby, I'm a southerner. Too hot.
All right, Lauren, are you going to continue going around the horn, or that was your contribution for the day?
That was my contribution for the day.
Let's go to G.
G. What up, G?
Shade LA, I don't really have nothing. Just glad to hear you guys talk about Bitcoin as a weapon. So, yeah, Shade LA, stop paying your taxes to pedophiles. There's no kinetic way out of this. We are in a fifth generation warfare. This is an information war. And the only information that holds actual physical watts is Bitcoin, whereas other information does not. So don't get wrecked by the dip. And yeah, don't get triggered by people and other things. Like all these conserva bros getting triggered by Bad Bunny is like actually exposing all these frauds, right? They're like, we need to target the SEC now. They said a bad word. Oh my God, there's children watching. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, you guys are such fakes. I don't know. The world's a shit show. Everything's fake and gay. The numbers are fake. The economy's fake. So the only thing that's real right now is Bitcoin. So have fun.
G Money owns the domain fakeandgay.com. True story.
Love that. Prometheus, go ahead, brother.
Well, speaking of fake and gay, I'm done investing or associating with companies that are going to be part of this shit show of Epstein clientele that's being disclosed worldwide. I invite my personal position. I'm not a fan of Pfizer. I'm not a fan of Moderna, AstraZeneca. This lot helped cause a genocide in my nation and many other nations around the world, I believe, through COVID. And we haven't punished anybody. And like Eric, you mentioned this in your thoughts, which is that, are we having just another news cycle and moving on, or do we need to have a bigger response as individuals and public? Like, where is the fire? I invite the men in this room to have a fire lit inside your spirit. Be like, no, not on my watch. I am done with this stuff. All right. And we're going to work together and build something different that's not going to involve you sick mofos ever. All right. So that's my prayer. Thank you.
Love it. Lauren.
Love one another. Not your keys, not your cheese. Over to you, Terrence, and then close it down with Eric.
Yeah, I think what's wonderful about Bitcoin, especially in a time like now and what we continue to see now with Jeffrey Epstein and everything that's happening, is that, Bitcoin is just a set of rules, and we can't do bad and then be punished. We can't be elected to some position and then not get reelected. You simply can't. It's you have to be a good actor in Bitcoin, period. You don't get the chance to attempt to do something bad. You're either following the rules within the system or you're outside of the system following your own set of rules. And I think people are going to gravitate and cling to that more and more with where we're going. Back to you, Eric.
Yeah, I'll end this with Michael Leone just put a comment on one of my posts saying, money laundering enables human trafficking, you sick freak masquerading as a Christian. So let me address this as a human being, voice to voice, person to person. Humans traffic humans. Banks launder more money than anyone else. Banks control your country. Banks work with the government to restrict your own personal freedoms, and my people perish for lack of knowledge. So if you'd like to contest that from a biblical perspective, I would be more than happy to, because money laundering accounts for a very small amount of money, yet all of it is monitored and tracked to keep you enslaved in a system that keeps you constantly working, constantly turning the wheels, and praising God less. So I'd be more than happy to have that dialogue with you if you'd like, and address that head on anytime you'd like, because money laundering is used as a hook to enslave you into a system. Break out of the system. Find the truth in this world. There's nothing more important than your faith and your family. Everything else is circumspect. Give your glory to God. Give your love to your family and your neighbors. Life works out in the end. God bless you all. Thank you for being here on Bitcoin today. And I'll be ecstatic to see you tomorrow. And of course, next Tuesday we'll be back here on time next time. So God bless you all. Hope you have a great day.
Find something that you can trust in that trustless world, which is Bitcoin.
Lauren, you had Eric on a megaphone there.
The U.S. federal government.
Earth to Eric. Come in, Eric.
I'm here.
Sounding like T-Pain.
Sorry. The producer was trying to really produce this last little segment here. Apologies. Adios, everybody. Have a great day. G Money is gay for whatever the bunny guy's name is.
Nasty rabbit.
Thank you.